Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Meg, and this is Ger Can Get It. This week, Rachel, you know what children love? They love the films of George Raft and King Lear. This week, we're talking about part 2 of Dracula the series.
What was this?
If they gave awards for makeouts on screen or stage, this guy would get a lifetime achievement. He'll find any excuse to get right, to suck and face. You honestly wouldn't believe it. Dissecting each and every kiss with tongue. There's only one conclusion to come to. It's that Ger can get it. Ger can get it.
This was so insane. I had to look up George Raft, by the way. When Dracula name checks him, I was like, who the hell is George Raft? George Raft was an American film actor and dancer who played gangsters in crime melodramas from the 30s and 40s. Why did they include a George Raft reference in Dracula the series, which was aimed at 6-year-olds? I'm not mad about it.
This show is aimed at 6-year-olds?
I mean, that's kind of what I assume, because I watched it when I was like 5 or 6. So like in my head, it's... Maybe that explains a lot.
It would, because there's like, I think I was texting you while I was watching it earlier, and I said, this feels like the way Dracula views the world, which is just everyone is ridiculous children. And every once in a while, there are moments of real poignant meaning that make life worth living. And that's what this show is. Because everyone is either a ridiculous child, including the people who are not actually children.
I was going to say, including the adults, yeah.
Including the adults. And then every once in a while, you get these moments that are like, oh my God, why is this in a child's show?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Speaking of which, as like a follow-up to last week's episode, so we were talking about, I don't remember the name of the character now, but the fictional vampire actor who gets turned into a real vampire.
Yeah.
And how we really loved that episode. We wanted that actor to be in everything. Well, it turns out that that's Kim Coates. And I didn't know who Kim Coates was because I don't watch a lot of stuff besides Ger's entire filmography. But he's been in a whole bunch of stuff. He is apparently like universally beloved. He was in Waterworld, like you said. Mm-hmm. Like his filmography is like pages and pages and pages on Wikipedia, and he's been in a bunch of stuff. And so I'm like, I'm happy about it.
He did a really good job.
He did such an amazing job when he didn't have to. He could have phoned it in on Dracula the series when he was in his like 20s. So, but he looks very different. He has got like a little, like a very thin little like goatee going on, and he looks like a completely entirely different person. So like, I mean, I have face blindness anyways. Half the time we're watching this and you're like, oh, this actor was also in Forever Night, and I'm like, no, they weren't. And you're always right. You're 100% always right. But I can't, like, the faces all look different to me. Like they all look like different characters. Anyways.
Yeah.
This was weird. This second, I feel like,
you know who never phoned it in either? Jordy.
That is true.
Jordy
brought it up to like 11
fucking second. He was like, oh, here. Even in the episode, which is like the bullshit flashback elevator episode, where they all go to eat dinner at his house, and it's just it's literally just clips from past episodes. It's clearly they needed one more episode. Yeah. Even in that, Jordy did not phone it in.
I will say when we get to discussing the clip show, I will say that I was like, oh, okay, it's just a clip show, like no one's gonna care. The writing, I thought, went like surprisingly hard. The like subtext went crazy. They brought Ger in for like 4.5 seconds.
Hey Dad, can I borrow your neck?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm like 98% sure. So I made the Instagram post already because I was like, I want to get it done and like prepared.
Yeah.
Currently, the Instagram post is just Ger saying, "Hey Dad, can I borrow your neck?" Because I was like, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen.
It's so good because he opens the door and it's just Ger, like,
being,
"Hey Dad,
so goofy, yeah."
Can I borrow your neck? I was gonna open it with that. That's what my plan was for opening the show, but I couldn't remember it.
If you want to, I'll edit it out.
No, it's all right. I won't, and we'll say I did.
Well, if you change your mind at any point,
I
will.
And there's a moment where they break into Dracula's castle, and he goes, "Oh," something like, "Curse your like obvious, like, oh no, this is your obvious entrance moment." It's basically like, oh, I totally expected you to come at this moment. And I was like, oh, thank you for being self-aware of the fact that every time you get to this crucial part in the plot, someone will come in the castle.
Yeah. Well, it's like, how many times does he go, does everyone have a key to my house? Like, I'm like, it is weird. It is weird at this point that like this plucky 10-year-old has broken into your corporate offices and your fortified stone castle at
Like
least 15 times. Yeah.
Like a lot, like every episode.
Do you not have a lock? Like, I know you have like zombies and shit, but like, do you not have a lock on your door? Like keys have been around for a long time, sir. Like what is going on here? So as we said last week, Ger is in several episodes in the first 7, and then he's in like 2 or 3, I think, in the last 7, and then he's nowhere in the middle. So we're going to like yada yada through the middle a little bit. So I feel like this show just like spends a lot of any episode that's not Ger specific. They're just like, what if we just pull a new form of vampire lore out of our butts and we'll just throw it at you, and then it won't matter. It won't matter ever again. But we're just going to keep throwing weird shit at you, and we're going to see like what we enjoy, what we feel like. So what we learned in the middle. So we learned that there are 3 things that can happen to you when you're bitten by a vampire. So you either die, you become a zombie, or you become a vampire yourself. And like, I feel like the way this show uses the word zombie is like not in a way that I was familiar with. Cause like, I thought zombies were like a separate thing, like a corpse that's falling apart, but it kind of like moves around a little bit. And if it bites you and eats your brain, then you're also a zombie. But like, that's not what the show means in this. The show has like
a Renfield.
Yeah. Well, I know that they're vampire adjacent because one of them gets shot with the vampire gun and he dies the way that a vampire would die, which is to say, his skeleton kind of lights up and then he explodes. It's horrifying. It's fucking horrifying. But like, so I was like, when I saw that, I was like, okay, so they're like vampire bodies, but they're zombie brains, kind of like they're brainless, but you can kind of point them into directions and they'll like hold your dinner tray for you nice, but they can't think, or I don't, it's like, it's weird. Cause like, you never see one made. You just know that they are being made, and they're being made by vampires by biting, and they're like this in between thing. But anytime any of our characters get bitten, they're become
immediately
zombies.
Vampires.
Yeah, or they're like they're in that grace period. They're like in that human grace period until you eventually like run out of magic potions and holy water and magic river water and the love of your child. You know, all the stuff that stops you.
All the other things that can cure you. Yes. Yeah. As long as you're within this very specific moment before too much time has passed, and then you're unsavable completely.
Yeah. But it's like human grace period and then vampire, but like somehow they're making zombies in the meantime, which I don't know how. But it brings up the first like point that I want to make, which is it's like what you said last time. The Sophie character and the Max character, they're like somehow they're like full of vampire lore. Like I know the Max character has that big book that he's always reading, and Sophie is just Gustav's like number 2, his gal Friday. So like she knows all this stuff. But then like they don't know any of the lore, and like the lore changes all the time, and they're like surprised by shit. Like Max is reading this book, and then he walks around doing like the dumbest, like opening up tombs, moving crosses, like poking open like holy water salt circles, like just like doing whatever the fuck you feel. And I'm like, you have like the manual on how not to do stupid shit, and you're just like running around doing stupid shit.
Doing the stupid shit anyway. Yeah. I mean, it's because they have to be plucky kids. That's the whole. I mean, as much as we're here for Geordie and Ger's back and forth Shakespeare commentary, this is actually a children's show. So they do occasionally have to do plucky 90s children's stuff.
I still can't get it. But this show is so dumb. So we've got anyway, so like in theory, death, zombie, or vampire. So then we have an entire, like, we have like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 episodes where we learn that there's like a genetic condition that you could have that like, okay, I'm going to, I know we didn't science in the 90s, but like, I'm struggling with this, but okay. So we find out that there's a guy in town who is a thief who robs people while wearing very thin pantyhose on his head. Because in the 90s, that's how you rob people.
Yes.
And I don't even remember his name. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that he's played by an actor who is clearly at least like 27 and a half. Do you know what I mean? Like adult. He is like a grown man. He will date Sophie, who again is a child. So I don't know why the show will continue this entire, like the rest of the season, the show will continue to be like, what if children and adults just were dating and we're all cool with it? Like, I don't like it and it concerns me. And like the number of documentaries coming out lately about like bad child-adult relations on children's shows in the 90s, like makes me like a little like, I hope nothing bad happened.
Yeah. The 90s had no chill about that. I mean, like they did not. Do you remember the movie Blank Check? Where he takes the woman out on like an incredible date and he's like 10.
So I had never seen that movie, but I saw a clip of it on Instagram today from the How Did This Get Made podcast. And I was watching it and I was like, I think I sent it to you because I was like, oh, this feels familiar. This feels, I don't like this. I don't like this little boy and this grown lady on a date.
Yeah, like you sent it to me and I was like, oh shit, I had blocked that movie out. All I remembered was like the scene where he takes the check and forges it. Because he
what
like
is this movie about?
It.
Like, what is the actual? Is there any context?
I think he gets paid by his rich neighbor, but they don't put an amount on the check. So he like scans the check, and now I am flying from the seat of my pants because I think I saw this when I was like 14. He scans the check into the computer, and he like forges the guy's like a number on it. He like types a number onto the check, and then cashes it for like a ton of money. Because the guy just hands him a blank check. And so then he like, I think he continues to issue checks from this guy's account. And he ends up like stealing a bunch of money and
oh my God,
becoming really popular with his friends and shit. And then they're like, oh, where'd you get all this money? And he's like, yeah, I really stole this. And they're like, oh, plucky kid, you got to give it back. You know, and I think that's the movie.
We were very cool with child crime in the 90s. Because I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. It's like Baby's Day Out. Baby's Day Out is all about this child that gets away, and it's like this kid has adventures through the city all day as bad guys are chasing it. Do you remember that movie?
The concept sounds familiar, vaguely.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, I know there's one with, the bartender from Cheers, Ted Danson. There's one with Ted Danson and Macaulay Culkin, where I feel like it's like a father and son and they're both like thieves, but like dad and son. I feel like it's like divorced dad and he hasn't seen the son in a while. But like I feel like children committing crimes with their cool thieving adults was like a weird theme that we did in the 90s. Yeah.
Somebody needs to do a sociological study on how we portrayed children in the 90s and why they were all like plucky, amoral, and prone to felonies.
Yeah.
Like if you left a child alone long enough, they would find a blank check and steal all your money and there would be no consequences because aren't they cute? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also as we're determining, they also, all children want to fuck adults, which I don't like it. I don't think this is like a theme that we should have gone with.
They alternate between like Sophie can date 25-year-old men and Sophie is like answering columns in the newspaper that these men are putting in to attract women.
I blocked that one out.
Yeah, because Chris writes a column and puts it in the newspaper, and Max like arranges for them to read for Sophie to read his column, and then they go on a blind date together. And so we're trying to set up Chris and Sophie, which they're like 12. I don't know how old they are, but it's
they're both
not
like they're like 16-ish. I mean, they could be like cutesy dating, I know.
He's preparing to start his music career. I know that much because every chance he has, he must have known this was getting canceled, and he was trying to like.
He was. I think. Yeah.
I'm going for music after this, you guys. Like, I don't think acting's for me. I think I'm gonna do music because he always has a guitar.
I think if I remember correctly, the actor who plays Chris, I think he either did or does currently like have a music career. I think that is in fact accurate. So yeah. We have Sophie. We have her grown adult man thief boyfriend who nobody's worried about except for us. We don't like it. It feels bad. Sophie's boyfriend, who she doesn't know is a thief, he tries to rob Dracula, which like I get the instinct, like you see a man in a full-length tuxedo and like a white bow tie and you're like, that feels like
and
money. And a fucking opera cape
with like the popped collar.
With the pop, yeah. I mean, I get the instinct. So like, I get why you thought there was money there, but also you're in a town of like 12 people, 9 of whom are vampires. So like, I feel
11 or vampires.
Yeah, that's true. I I feel like your instincts, like I see why you thought money, but like you should also have been thinking this man will eat me, but he doesn't. So he goes up to Dracula. He's like, your money or your life. And Dracula's like, how about neither? And like bites the guy.
Yeah.
So Dracula, all of a sudden, like they show it in shadow and Dracula starts like collapsing on the floor. But like in the shadow, it sort of looks like Dracula's about to give the guy a blowjob, which I did not enjoy because I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't like it.
No, Jordy. Don't do it.
This is not that kind of program, Dracula After Dark. So, but it's like this weird, like slow slump of the shadow onto the thief's shadow, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, he also doesn't like, I thought like in most vampire lore, like you have to do something to not just kill them, like to turn them into a vampire. But I guess if you just maybe in this, if you just don't drink them all the way, maybe they turn into vampires. Like again, like the show gets really detailed sometimes and then very much like broad strokes the rest of the time. Like it doesn't care. It doesn't matter. We're all here for Geordie and for Ger. So Dracula bites boyfriend. Boyfriend apparently has some kind of a weird rare blood disease or something. Something
blood
is
type.
Genetically
some enzyme. I think they call it an enzyme.
The enzyme, yeah. But they use science words the way I use science words, which is to say stupidly.
He has a thing in his blood, and it makes it bad.
There it is. That's what I got. He's got bad blood.
He's got bad blood.
So his bad blood makes Dracula sick. So they paint Geordie a little bit like an AIDS victim, which I also was not super. I was like, maybe they could have just made him look like sickly and not like they gave him sores. They gave him like sores all over his face. And I was like,
it's kind of like in the Bad Blood episode of Forever Night where Nigel / LaCroix accidentally drinks the really, really evil guy's blood and he gets sick and then he looks like that.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't know. It's weird like how these shows talk to each other. And then the bad guy
becomes Jack the Ripper.
I'm going to be honest. I like blocked out most of that episode. There's some episodes that just exist as like vague washes of color in my head, and that's one of them.
It's worth it. Jeanette is wearing like a really low cut dress, and she's like leaning over him, and she has to keep moving around the table to stay in frame.
They dressed her so weirdly. Like I was trying to find like pictures of like actual Jeanette outfits, and like I was going through, and I was like, they're either like very slutty or they're like very elaborate, and sometimes they're slutty and elaborate, but it's just they're like it's weird. The roller coaster that her costume design takes. Anyways, so boyfriend has something bad in his blood. It makes Dracula sick. It sort of gives him vampire AIDS. We're not going to worry about it.
No.
And then boyfriend bites Sophie. So we've seen other people in this show who are vampires and they can act they're like evil, but they're like vaguely evil, but they seem sort of normal in the daytime. Or like I said, they're like full on zombies. And we will see some characters that like are vampires, but are just seem like totally normal, like not even evil, just like just like good people that happen to be vampires, and they're like trying to like fight their vampire nature. Sophie, however, goes a little more classic horror movie.
Yeah.
Which is to say that the second she gets bitten, she becomes really, really slutty. And I was like, again, this actress is like 16 and a half, you guys. Like you could have just made her like evil and like put her in a red dress with some coverage. But instead, they're like, she's a vampire now. So like she can't have her hair up in a ponytail. She has to like have it like super big because she's got curly hair. So the second it comes out of the ponytail, it's like, whoop. It's like this giant like sex mane. They have her in like a little slutty red dress with like lipstick on because she doesn't wear a lot of like heavy makeup the rest of the series. And then after she will get turned back into a human at some point. She still has like, she's like not as nerdy as she was. Not that she's nerdy. Oh, she was like a little bit nerdy. She's like, afterwards she's just like slightly like still like a little more like feminine and
a little more empowered.
Yeah. And I was like, that's interesting. Like it would have been interesting to see if that was like on purpose and if they like ever did anything with that in season 2. They mention it. They will address it a little bit in that dream sequence episode, in the clip episode, which I thought was interesting. But anyways, at this point, so she's bitten. She gets a little bit skanky. She runs off. And like right after, in the beginning of this episode, when we learned that the only thing that can happen to you when you're bitten by a vampire is again, death, zombie, you're also a vampire. what happens? She bites like some history teacher that was mean to her like 8 years ago. The woman is fine.
Yeah.
Like she's in the hospital. She's like sick, but like she's cool.
She just doesn't remember what happened.
Yeah. I'm like, you literally just established that there's only 3 things that can happen. And then you immediately were like, nah, it's a fourth thing. No,
except the magical 4th thing. It's fine. Don't even fucking worry about it.
No, it's cool. So Sophie is basically going to run around and hit on Chris and like giggle at him as a bat and also as kind of a
it's like a
teen.
Klaus giggle too. It's like she's like chasing him.
It is full manic. It is like the most. It's sort of like someone had a gun to her head and was like, "You better laugh real big," and she was like,
yeah. And clearly at one point they grab a clip and then they just keep replaying the clip, and so it's just like dee dee dee.
It's
like the same giggle over and over.
It's an identical creepy laugh.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
The only way to cure the vampire, so the only way to cure Dracula is with Dr. Varney, because again, fun reference to Varney the vampire, which is from what, like the 1800s, isn't it? It's quite
old. Yeah.
It's very, again, for the children. You know what the children love? They love Varney.
They love obscure vampire lore references. Yeah.
It's from 1845. You know what the 6-year-olds love.
Isn't it older than Dracula?
I believe so. Yeah. I think
Dracula is 1890s.
Yeah. So in this, Varney is a vampire who is a doctor for other vampires, which I have several follow-up questions on that will never be addressed. It's fine.
Like, why does he teleport different than Dracula? Because Jordy gets like a like a little tinkle sound, like a like a Tinkerbell type, like sparkles and bells, and then his is like because he like steps out of like a bolt of lightning or something.
No, it is. Yeah, he is very different. I feel like I'm confused about the concept of a vampire doctor. Even like I thought vampires like didn't get sick, and even Jordy say something like I thought we couldn't get sick, and Barney's like. Turns out you can.
Until you do, and then you need me, so he's just not busy, that's all. He's just...
I guess. He just sits at home reading a lot until he hears like...
He works just as much as every other doctor. That's what he does.
Ooh. Zing. Accurate zing. Okay. So he pops up and he's like, oh yeah, let me just stare into your eyes. Okay, I know what's wrong with you. So he's like, oh yeah, you must have bitten a guy with like a rare thing in his blood. That's
a bad genetic condition. That's what you kept telling me over text. You're like, he has a bad genetic condition.
Because it makes as much sense as anything else.
It's fine. He's like, you need this obscure water from this obscure stream.
Yeah, there's this one stream and somehow it's like, it's magical. But also I like how they're like, it's the 90s. Let's have a little bit of an environmental message. So Varney's like, yeah, this water would cure you. But it turns out your companies are polluting the shit out of it. And Dracula's like, I'm hoisted by my own petard. Like, And then Varney's like, well, yeah, but I also have like a portable water filter in my pocket. So you're good now. Like it's...
Here, I had this the whole time. I was just trying to teach you a lesson, and Dracula's like, I would kill you, but you're the only doctor. So
I do love that, like, Varney is the only character that's like, you know who I'm going to fuck with? Dracula. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I guess if you're the only vampire doctor for vampires ever, I guess you're in the position where you can fuck with Dracula, but, like, should you, though? Because, like, Jordy Johnson's like 1.5 feet taller than you. Like he looks like he could like rip your head off. But
yeah,
whatever.
But this guy was Rasputin in Forever Night.
That's right. Yeah. You mentioned that. You mentioned that to me before. This show has a lot of crossover that I did not realize until you, with your eagle eyes, pointed out like every. So you're gonna have to remind me.
Like one skill, and it is identifying random bit actors that have been in other obscure television shows.
I mean, it's a helpful skill for this podcast because it comes up a lot.
Who knew it would someday benefit me to just be able to go, oh, that guy plays in this one episode of this television show that's 35 years old. And everyone's like,
Ger knew.
Fucking
Ger
stop.
Knew. He fated this to happen.
He knew.
Yeah.
Just like earlier, we had the woman from My Boyfriend is a Vampire. We skipped that episode, I think, but it's the one where he's fucking with the lady who's an art dealer. The art dealer.
Yeah, the one who's like a scam artist, right? She's making copies
the one
and
where
stuff.
Chris shows up at her door and he's like, I'll do deliveries for you. And she's like, I think I love you and I'm going to treat you like my plucky sidekick now from here to the end of the episode. And he's like, hell yeah. And then he finds out she's copying stuff, and Dracula's like, I love an amoral art dealer. And so he turns her into a vampire.
And like, I feel like when we have that episode, it seems like it's setting up that she's going to show up again and like have some role in his empire. Nope, never again. Just the one.
No.
This show, I just like, because we don't get a second season, I keep being like, were they setting things up, or were they just like throwing gum at the ceiling to see what would stick? And I feel like it's equally possible, like either way. But okay, so Dr. Varney's like, there's a stream. It somehow magically undoes this genetic condition when it's not poisoned. P.S. I just cleaned up the water, but only in this one vial in my pocket. Dracula, you're a dickhead, but you're welcome. So Varney gives the water to Dracula. It fixes Dracula. And then somehow, I don't remember how, it doesn't matter because the show doesn't care, Max and Chris and Gustav, they like also become aware that the water in the stream, they're there, I think, when Varney and Dracula are talking. Yeah. So they know that the water in the stream fixes the genetic condition. So that leads them to the obvious conclusion that if you give the water in the stream to Sophie, because she was bitten by a vampire with the bad condition, the water will undo her condition that was caused by the bad condition, which is to say it will undo her vampirism. Obviously. Science. So clear.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yes.
So Chris tries to like, so they try to like get her to get like the water in her, and she's like, nope, fuck off. I'm playing the piano better than I ever played before, which is a skill that happens.
Harpsichord.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. The harpsichord. Yeah. Yes. How rude of me.
I got you something.
She's playing it like sexily with her big hair.
Yes.
And they're trying to cure her. And Dracula's like, you've been a vampire for 8 minutes. I gave you a musical instrument. So I'm going to start using you as my own personal assassin. And I was like, okay, that turned a dark corner very quickly. Yeah, but okay, sure. So the family goes in to like try to save her, blah, blah, blah. We end up having a scene where Sophie has pinned Chris to the ground, like in a field outside the castle, after she chased him as a bat, which with, as you said, like the same sound clip played over and over and over, eerily and creepily. So she's like on top of him. She's like, I'm going to turn you into a vampire because I love you. And I was like, okay, they couldn't say that at all before when she was human. But now that she's like wearing the red lipstick and the cleavage, it's love. Okay.
Yeah, love.
Yeah, sure. So Chris is like, look, I love you too. Like, if this is how we have to be together, then like, whatever, bite me. But first, like, I want to know this is real. Like, will you kiss me? And she's like, abso-fucking-lutely I will. And I was like, okay, all right, these are children, and I don't like this. I know I criticize like 25-year-olds playing 16-year-olds, but it turns out it's less uncomfortable to watch 25-year-olds kiss on television than like 16-and-a-half-year-olds like sharing their first kiss in a dirt field playing with Dracula. Yes. Yeah. So she's like, I will totally kiss you. And he's like, okay, give me a sec. I need to like freshen my breath. I'm self-conscious about my breath.
Yeah. And he sprays it all over the lower half of his face. Like it's the Ger strike zone spray. It's all of it. Everything, like the lips, the cheeks, the chin, inside his mouth.
And also he like does the open mouth, like sprays to the back of his throat. Like he does
once or twice.
Yeah. He sprays a wide area of his mouth and face with the air quote breath spray, which we actually find out is the water from the magic stream. They have a tiny little chaste, thank God it's chaste, a tiny little chaste kiss between them. And then she starts convulsing very violently, flips onto her back, and then like passes out. And they're like, okay, this definitely worked. And she's human and fine now. And I was like,
ta-ha.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah.
Like a lot of stuff. This will be the second most uncomfortable kiss of the latter 2/3 of this show, because when we get to the I Love Lucard episode, I had to watch that kiss like 3 times because I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I don't like it. But okay, so she's like human again. They don't like, I feel like during the show, correct me if I'm wrong, until we get to the clip episode at the end, they don't really address that like you were a vampire for 5 minutes and like Dracula's henchman, like, and sort of involved in his whole business dealings. Like you might have learned information that would be helpful to us. I feel like they don't address it at all. Like the show doesn't care.
No.
Until until we get to a, like you said, the clip episode, which is basically, it's Gustav having a nightmare. That's the whole episode. Gustav has a nightmare. And in the nightmare, Dracula and the kids and Gustav are all having a dinner party. Dracula's like, I have called a truce because I enjoy fighting you. You enjoy fighting me. Let us have a dinner party. And they're like, okay, sure. So they have a dinner party and they're sitting there and Dracula, and they're all like, oh my God, Dracula, you're such a good cook. And like, I do appreciate the ballsiness of the episode that it doesn't tell you it's a dream until the very end. So you're just dropped right into Dracula's dinner party. And the whole time I was like, the fuck, did I miss Did I miss like 6 episodes between like this and the last one where this is all explained? No, the show's just like, fuck it, just go with it. So Dracula is basically taunting them and reminding them of all their adventures, and then he reminds them of an adventure and like a clip plays, and then he reminds them of another adventure and another clip plays. He brings up the whole Sophie was briefly a vampire, and he starts talking to Sophie, and he's like, I know the darkness still calls to you. Like, don't you like miss the drama and the power and the excitement of that life? Like, wasn't it like erotic? Wasn't it thrilling? And Sophie is sitting there and she's got her hand like on her chest, like she's like feeling her heartbeat and like trying to calm herself down and like sort of having an erotic thrill, like remembering. I was like, first off, like good job, little 16-year-old actor. Like you did a very good job there. Like that was very, very subtle and very, very interesting. But like in terms of the show, I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to talk about that?
Yeah,
okay.
Right? This is like, you just opened up a very interesting door into like what is actually going on with her emotionally and psychologically, and like the effect of having been changed into this like powerful sexual beast, and now you're back to being like little 16-year-old Sophie who plays the violin and like is a little bit uptight. Like, are you gonna like unpack this at all? No, you're just gonna throw this at me at the second to last episode, which is a clip episode, by the way. You're just gonna like open this door and then be like, fuck you, here's what could have been behind it, and then slam the door in my face.
Yes.
But it's very interesting. I was like, I wish, it's sort of like the other comment that we made last time. There are things that are brought up in this series where I'm like, oh, if this were brought up in like an ongoing like series for adults, like what an interesting thing it would be to like delve into these questions. Like the vampire actor and his whole like,
I want like a gentler monster thing.
Yeah. Like to bring, if you had this in like an adult show, like how interesting would it have been to spend like several episodes with these characters or with these feelings or with these experiences with them? Like how interesting it would be to unpick it. And the show is just like, nope, fuck it, we're for children.
You.
We're going to throw something amazing at you, and then we're going to go back to like plucky kids solving crimes.
Weird, stupid heist. That's what we're going to do.
This show is just like an emotional cock tease. I'm just like, what? Like, what do you? So that's the whole Sophie arc, which is just interesting, but only in the last 12 seconds, and then. We briefly, so like Sophie and Chris, it's like they like each other. They're going to date each other. Like you said, they both put like singles ads in the newspaper, which thank God that they like play it as the 2 singles ads are only meant for like each other to find, because I feel like that could have gone into like a whole different, like an adult man or an adult woman like responded to this. Like that could have been horrible. Yes. So like, thank God they engineered it. So it's just the little boy and the little girl. Cause like, but Chris, so they're into each other, and then there's the vampire episode, and then Sophie's no longer a vampire, and then I think it's Sophie's character that's like, maybe we like should take it a little bit slow. They kind of like, they back off it all the way, and then for the rest of the series, I don't know, they don't even really seem to like.
They don't really even acknowledge it.
No, yeah, they don't even acknowledge. I mean,
they do
happened.
Kind of, because we have that episode with Alexa. His girlfriend from the States. Yeah,
but it's sort of like, but that's the episode where I think they like back off, and then they're like donezo. But yeah, so Chris has an ex-girlfriend who moves to Europe from the States, and so my first thought was, oh, she's here for college, she's here for university, she's like older, but then no, she's here because her dad got a job in Europe. So then I'm like, okay, are you supposed to be
in the city of Europe?
Yeah. Yeah, the undisclosed location where the show is set.
They bring her over for dinner, and they literally go, and we have authentic European cuisine.
Yeah, the cuisine of all of Europe, how it's all the same.
Of the city obviously. Of Europe. Yes.
So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Schnitzel. Well, I mean, to be fair, anytime that they're eating in any episode, it's always schnitzel and sauerkraut. So, like, it's sort of like the show just assumes that, like, everyone in all of Europe is only eating schnitzel and sauerkraut all day long. So, I was like, okay, so you're actually supposed to be like high school age, maybe. This actress is also like 35. Like she is significantly older than this kid. She is so much older that I was like, oh, were you like his teacher? No, you're his girlfriend.
Yeah. She's the French lady in Black Buddha on the Titanic.
Yeah, so if that gives you any kind of an idea, because in Black Buddha, she's playing a character that's supposed to be like physically the same-ish age as Ger. And in this, she's playing the girlfriend of a 16-year-old boy. And like, there's not that many years between those two episodes to make that not wrong.
5.
Why does this show want children and adults to like, because
it's the 90s and this is when Blue Lagoon came out and we were all cool with it.
I don't like it.
We were like, not only are they going to be children, they're going to be first cousins. Yeah. This is going to be good. Oh. And they're going to have kids together. Hell yeah.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about masturbation.
Pass. The things that we were fine with in the 90s, we are not fine. I'm taking a stand for the podcast. We are not fine with it now. We don't like it.
I'm just going to say we have a line. I'm okay because this happened in the 90s. If we made this show now and we had this many like children dating adults, I would hate it. Like I would be offended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that being like a thing at all. And so when I was rewatching in preparation for this episode, I was like, wait a minute. This is not right. I don't like this at all. So we're gonna move past it because she pops up in one episode and then never again. But basically, she's the impetus for like Chris and Sophie being like, let's back off. And I'm like, cool. I'm okay with the teen romance angle being downgraded. I'm fine with it. So, we have an episode where, because you know what kids like, they like Pygmalion, they like My Fair Lady. That's what they're really into. So they have a Pygmalion My Fair Lady episode where Dracula meets this woman who she's supposed to be talking like Eliza Doolittle. Is that the character's name from My Fair Lady? But because we live in the pop culture that we live in, like to me she just sounds like Harley Quinn, like from Batman. So it's a bit. Yeah. So if you like mentally imagine like Harley Quinn popping onto the scene and Dracula being like, I'm going to make her fancy, but without biting her. And so I was like, wait, hold up for a second. So biting you either makes you dead, a zombie, a vampire. And if it makes you a vampire, it either makes you slutty as all hell, like Sophie, or it classes you the fuck up. Like it makes you like a fancy lady. Is that?
Yes.
Did I miss like the Vampire Elocution School episode? Because like I would watch that.
This is the Vampire Elocution.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. What am I talking about? So he's like trying to teach her, and I like how they're like, we don't need context. Like she shows up and is like, I want to be a singer, and I'm like, but why do you think that like sitting on Alexander Lucard's desk and singing at him off key is going to get you a singing career?
Well, she says he's a renowned patron of the arts. But he's known for not turning anybody away. Yeah,
but like that's not, you don't get the patronage by just like humping his desk and caterwauling at it. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I didn't see maybe there's other episodes.
I think anybody can just walk into his office. So it's fine. It doesn't matter. She just walked in off the street. She looked at the directory and it was like Lucard penthouse. And she was like, cool. And she went and got in the elevator, just pushed the penthouse button.
That is kind of how the whole show feels. I mean, I like that Dracula makes that comment a couple of times. Like, can anyone walk in anywhere I am all the time? Like, what is this? But again, like it's like you're self-aware, but also no, seriously, what is this? How is this your setup? But yeah. So she goes into his office. She lies on top of his desk. She kicks all the shit off. She starts singing like very off key. And he's like, you know what? You seem like a challenge. I'm into it. So he's like, I'm going to teach her how to be a fancy lady. He tries for like 12 minutes and he's like, ugh, you're a lot. So he's like, I think I'm just going to bite you. Like I set myself a challenge. I failed. But you know what? I accept that I failed. I'm just going to eat you now. And then it turns out that she's the sister of some guy that Dracula killed, right? It's the brother? Yeah. And she's like also a famous vampire hunter in her own right. She normally does not talk like Harley Quinn, which I was like, I thank you, because I've like gotten my fill of that insane accent, that insane Brooklyn accent that you've been doing this episode. Like, thank you, but no more. So, but it's like this weird filler episode where I'm like, why does Dracula have like a bet with himself about turning someone into a fancy lady? Like, what was the point of this? I mean, no children. So like, thank you for that, because fewer children episodes.
I didn't hate this episode. This was the episode where I was like, I think this is an entire show about how Dracula sees everyone as ridiculous children. Like, I think that's what this show is about. Because I was watching this, like, what is even happening right now? Because he tries to teach her how to say, like, Vini Vidi Vici or whatever. And she's like, Benny, Vicky, Vicky or whatever. And he's like, oh. And then he tries to give her chocolates. And she goes, do you have any caramel nougat? And he's like, don't bite her. It's fine. And he's standing behind her. And he's like, no. That would be cheating. That's what he says. He goes, no.
And I was like, fun. It's entertaining.
I love this. Like, that whole section was great. Is this the episode with the moving wall of spikes?
I remember seeing the moving wall of spikes. No, that's the next one. So in the next one, we have the scientist who we'd seen in like a much earlier episode who made the anti-vampire gun. And then I think he destroyed the anti-vampire gun in that earlier episode. So now Dracula's like, you know what? If I had the anti-vampire gun, I could like kill all the other vampires. And I'm like, you're already killing all the other vampires like pretty handily. Like, you're doing a bang up job, but like, I guess it would be easier if you could do it like on the couch pointing a gun at them. So he like kidnaps the scientist. Then we've got the scientist's brother who's like a pompous actor. And I was like,
the tickler. Because the episode is called The Great Tickler.
Yeah, we're gonna sit with that title for a minute.
The what? And Ger's not even in it. What
I know it's a. If this show were remade today, obviously Ger would play the Great Tickler. Like, let's just be honest. That is the role that he would take over. But essentially, the guy calls himself the Great Tickler because he tickles the ivories. That's what he says. But this show knows what it is. Sure. This show knows what it is.
They knew exactly what they were doing. Exactly.
I really want to find like one of the writers for the show and sit down and be like, okay,
walk me through
level with me. What was the game plan? What drugs were you not on? Because I feel like that's a shorter list than the other list. Like, what? Like, can we just discuss like what? Tell me the tale of your fevered brain, because I love it, but also I'm like concerned. So, so Dracula kidnaps the scientist's pompous ass brother, and Gustav, and has Gustav locked in a room with a spike wall that is slowly moving towards him. I think there's 2 spike walls on either side. They're moving towards him to crush him.
Dracula goes, I saw this in a movie and I had to have it. And then when Max saves him, he goes, oh, I saw this in a movie one time and I always wanted one.
Yeah, I was like, that's interesting that you're like making the child like vampire hunter and the adult immortal vampire like exactly the same personality wise. Like, again, that could have been interesting to explore, but they're just like, nope, they both really like spike walls. Don't worry about it. So, long story short, blah blah blah. They have the scientist makes the anti-vampire gun. He thinks that he has made it so that Dracula can't use it, but Dracula's like, I've outsmarted you. He puts in like a new battery, basically. And then this is how we find out that the anti-vampire gun will work on zombies, because he's like, hey, zombie servant number 7, stand there. And the guy's like, Murr. And Dracula's like, all right, like, bam, and points it at him. And the guy explodes. Holy shit. Murr. You know, they're like dumb. I don't know.
No, I get it. It's fine. This is the episode where Max runs in and he's got to save Uncle Gustav, and Uncle Gustav just goes, use the skeleton keys. And Max pulls a whole ring of keys out of his pocket that we have never previously seen. And he starts trying keys on the door.
But it would it would make sense as to like, how are you breaking into Dracula's castle? I guess they're not. I guess they just have the janitor's key ring.
And the button to stop the button to stop the spike wall is on the outside of the door. So he could have
flashing.
And then in the end, he has to pull out a remote control to stop it, but we don't ever figure out where he got the remote control.
Yeah, what's like the rest of the show? Like, it doesn't give a shit. It's like, I don't know. I guess there's a remote control now and 65 keys. It's fine. This show, I feel like if you drank anytime like anything weird happened, you would have like a really good night and then a really bad day.
Yeah,
like it's so weird. So. I think. Oh, so the only other thing that happens, like in the first, like in the second 7, so like before we get back to Ger, is again like a very weird episode that I feel like goes in the face of like the rest of the lore that we learned. But Gustav goes to the old age home. He meets his friend there. He's like talking to the guy. The guy's like, "There's a vampire in the old age home. There's a vampire." And Gustav is like Dracula wouldn't drink an old person. And I'm like, well, that's rude. Maybe they're like aging like a fine vintage. You don't know. Like that's maybe Dracula likes old. You don't know. Some of us are really into old people. It's fine. It's not weird. It's not weird.
And it's okay. It's totally acceptable.
We like what we like. It's fine. So, so Gustav is like, nah, like Dracula's not there. And then we end up finding out that Dracula's friend, the vampire hunter, who is like the elderly man who now lives in the nursing home, has himself become a vampire. And he's like, I tried to tell you that and I'm like, you did not try to tell him. You said there's a vampire in the old age home, which is not the same as I am a vampire in the old age home and I'm draining people. But anyway, so, the guy, he basically suicide by cops Dracula. He goes up to Dracula and he's like, I'm going to make you kill me because I can't kill myself. And like, to me, it was unclear if it was like, I just am not like, I don't have the fortitude to kill myself, or if it was like a vampires can't kill themselves thing, because it kind of felt like maybe. He
says that he's older than Dracula.
I caught that too. Yeah. So which doesn't make any sense at all unless he means like the physical age of my body.
He's like, I need Dracula to kill me because I can't stand this like darkness anymore. Yeah.
So this is the second vampire who has just gone, I can't take this life, and then killed themselves. So
yeah,
again, kids show in the 90s, suicide. So, but like, I feel like again, like it's like, okay, he has seemed normal this entire time, but also he can't control himself, but also he controls himself every time that Gustav is around and he's totally like fine. But when Sophie becomes a vampire, she becomes a slut. When he wants to turn Harley Quinn into a vampire, he's like, that's going to make her like a classy lady. Like, I'm like, okay.
No rules.
No
gods.
No.
It's fine. It's fine.
So then we finally.
We get Geordie's line at the end of that episode, which is a really good one, because the guy dies and he's like, I win. And Geordie goes, you win, but I persist.
Yeah, that is like the show has a lot of really good one-liners.
You're like, okay, wow, we're just gonna throw that in at the end of the
show for kids. Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, you know what 6-year-olds like? Clever retorts. That's what they're into.
Witty repartee.
So we finally get to the episode called "Decline of the Romanian Vampire," which is when our buddy Ger comes back. I mean, Klaus.
In the most contrived way possible. Like Max is walking through the park and he's like, oh, look, Helsing's family crypt in my favorite Sunday afternoon strolling spot. And then he like sees the cross jammed in the handle and he's like, good thinking. That keeps vampires out.
That's my favorite part when he says good thinking and then he yanks it out of there. And I was like, you fucking, God damn it. This show makes me want to punch every 10-year-old I see in the head. like it makes me mad about 10-year-olds being 10-year-olds is what this show does to me. But yeah, he's like, so he's in, so the tomb, the mausoleum, the Helsing family crypt is in a cemetery. So Max is running around putting wild roses on everybody's graves so that if there is a vampire in there, they can't pop out. So like, good thinking. He goes up to the mausoleum. He sees the cross. He's like, oh, that's smart. Yoink. And grabs it out of the hasp. And I was like, okay, I hate you. So then he goes inside and he sees a big salt circle surrounding a pile of dust, which like, I personally have not read the big vampire book of vampires that you've been reading this entire time. But like, even I feel like
and
a
an
salt
empty
circle,
tomb and an empty tomb. Yeah.
I feel like a salt circle is like a universal symbol of like magical protection. Yeah. Don't fucking touch it.
Just
don't
fucking leave it.
So he's like, burp. And he like takes his finger and he like mashes it through the circle. And I was like, you deserve it. I hope Ger eats you. So he pokes through the circle. The circle is broken. And then the pile of dust goes, and it becomes a sexy young man. And oh my God, it's Ger. Hey Ger, what's up?
And he does the spin, like the most dramatic, like cape spin.
Look, that's the only way he can come in or out of a room, whether he is dust or man. That is the only way that he can enter or leave. That's in a dramatic, figure skating type dance move. So he pops up and he's like, ta-da.
Kate Flurry. Tis I, Klaus.
so he pops up. He's like, as an expression of my gratitude, I will not kill you today. Good day to you. And he like wanders off. And then right before he leaves the mausoleum, he starts reciting a quote from King Lear all about revenge, because Ger's got to do what Ger's got to do. So it's the I will have such revenges on you both that all the world shall. I will do such things what they are, yet I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. And I was like, oh, I love it. You've been on screen for 18 seconds and you're like, you know what this is missing? King Lear. You know what children fucking love and they recognize?
King Lear. Yeah, no, Shakespeare. Yeah.
Yeah, no notes. What this show has been missing for the last 7 episodes, I think there was not a single Shakespeare quote when he was off screen.
No, not while he was gone. There wasn't.
Nope. No, he comes back and everyone's reciting Shakespeare because he's like catching, I guess. So anyways, Max is like, uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. I was like, I hate you. I fucking hate you. You suck. Like, you brought Ger back. So like, good.
Goes,
but also,
oops.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, but again, like,
I released a murderer.
Yeah.
Unknown serial killer.
He still doesn't know. He will not know until like the very last few seconds of the finale that Ger is the son.
But they know Klaus is like a raging douchebag.
Oh, they know he's evil. Yeah, they know he's like super dangerous and deadly. But like he doesn't even know that he's Gustav's son. So I'm like, why did you you have the big vampire book of vampires. The whole series starts with you being already, before you even go to Europe, you're already super into the supernatural and monsters and like, you know, all this stuff. And the second that Gustav is like eating air quote poppy seeds, which are actually sunflower seeds. The second he sees them, he's like, vampire. Like, we need to hunt him. We need to like do stuff. And I'm like, you are supposed to be like the super smart, supernatural savvy kid. And you're just like dirt, like tripping over your own baby dick, like into like accidents everywhere you go, causing problems. Like he's one of those characters where he's as smart or dumb as the writers want him to be in any episode. And like, yeah, it's believable for a 10-year-old, but like, do I hate it any less? No, I do not. I hate it aggressively. I hate it a lot. So anyways, Ger goes immediately to see Lucard, and he sits on Lucard's couch and he's like tenting his fingers and he's like being very like Ger businessman. And he's like, look, I am not here for revenge. I was too rash and unstable. It was my own fault that I got locked away. Like, you were smart to lock me away. I totally get it. You're such a smart, amazing guy. Can I please work for you again? And Dracula's like, no, pass.
They do quote Shakespeare again.
Did they?
Here. Yep. Geordie says it. And then he does his like this play act, whatever scene, whatever. And Ger corrects him.
Oh, he does the line thing.
Yeah. He's like, nope, it's this act, this scene.
Oh, I should have written down. I didn't write down which play that they're quoting at each other, but you know, that's how they say hello. So Dracula's like, like hard pass. Like, you were a very bad personal assistant. And like, I guess I don't care that you're not locked up anymore, but also like, get out of my fucking face. Like, I have business deals to run. And Ger's like, hear me out, what if I give you my dad? And Dracula's like, interesting.
He's coming over tonight anyway. He does every night. They just break in.
They break in once a night, like clockwork. But yeah. So Dracula's like, I guess if you gave me your father for me to murder, like, I guess maybe you could be my personal butt boy again. Like, that's fine. Like, just, you'll be my little bitch. So Ger's like, cool, like, neat. So then Ger wanders off and goes to see Gustav. And I really liked this scene. I feel like this is another one of those like high quality acting scenes where like 3 different layers of intentions are happening all at once in this goofy Scooby-Doo Mysteries bullshit show for children. So Ger goes to Gustav. He's like, I'm going to show you I'm going to show you his resting place. I wish I could be your son again. And maybe after you kill Dracula, like maybe after you do that, I can wait for you to cure me. Maybe that will like help like rest my soul, and I can do this for you again. Like, I wish I could be that son for you again. Like, help me be that person. Help me be that better person. And I don't know. I really enjoyed. What were your thoughts? I really liked watching like the layers of like the fake persona that he's projecting and the like real intentions underneath, and like manipulating his father, and like maybe a little bit like a little nugget of like something true in his heart. Like, maybe there's a little part of him that does want to be human again, like as we saw in the episode where he gets locked away when his dad is like, "You're my son," and like there's that little flash in his eyes. I don't know. I really
the Klaus Gustav subplot it has no business being in this show.
It's too good.
That's what I think. I was watching this. I got to the last. There's a couple episodes close to the end where Dracula doesn't seem like the big evil bad guy. He just seems really tired. Like, I'm tired of going through all of this. Like, this plucky shit was fun for a little while, but now it's just a lot. And like, you guys keep telling me I'm a bad guy. And I'm really tired of people telling me I'm a bad guy and like somebody holds up a cross and he's like, again, are we going to do the cross thing again? Like, please, again. And like, there's the episode where we'll get there with the like irradiated cross or whatever that's like glowing.
Oh
green.
my God. Yeah.
And there's
the cross of Silesia.
Yeah. There's a couple moments where the adults get to be together and they get to act together. And I'm like, oh my God, like I want the guy that wrote the dialogue in these scenes, and I want the guy that came up with the Klaus Gustav dynamic to like branch off and make me a television show.
Yeah.
Please.
No, exactly. Yeah. The writing is so beautiful. The acting is so layered. Like, like give me something.
Tired, disaffected Geordie Dracula towards the end was like, holy shit. I want that in another, what business, like, and then they'll come in to do their plucky kid stuff and it's just like, oh, okay, fucking fine, do your plucky kid stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and then I can go back to having my existential crisis because like he likes who he is, he likes what he does, but then they keep showing up and stopping him and it's like, why? And like, why do you keep telling me I'm a bad guy? Like, I don't want anyone to keep reminding me that the things that I'm doing are like, I don't need you to hold this mirror up for me. I'm fine. Like, stop. I don't want to see me.
It does feel like two different shows like mashed on top of each other, like an interesting adult interpersonal existential crisis family drama, and then the Scooby-Doo mysteries, but with vampires. And I'm just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like your head spins. Your head fucking spins. So Ger is talking to Gustav. He's like, let's go and get Dracula. And so then we end up like, obviously it's a double cross. So we end up having Ger and Dracula and Gustav, and they're all in like the one room of the castle that we ever get to see, like that one room that's used over and over again. So Ger is, I love this. Ger shows up. Dracula is like, oh my God, Gustav, you're getting so old and like feeble-minded. You're so easy to trick. And Ger's like, I could say the same about you, old man. And Geordie's like, bitch, please. And I was like, yay. So Ger has a cart. It's like the audiovisual cart that we all had when we were kids, and the teacher wheeled in like a television.
Rolls it over. He's like, let me show you something. And he like
squeak, squeak, squeak. So he rolls over the audiovisual cart, on top of which is a pirate's chest, is the only way I can describe it, like a pirate's booty chest. Inside the chest is a bunch of plastic explosives. Don't worry about how Ger got plastic explosives. He just did. It's cool.
It's fine.
And a timer that you turn on and off with a credit card, with like a swiper card.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, why not? It's the space age technology.
Yeah, he knows how to build a bomb. It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course he knows how to build a bomb. You become a vampire, you become slutty and good at the harpsichord, and you know how to build a bomb.
You know how to do shit, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. So he's like, I've locked all the doors. I guess I will lock the door when I leave. There's no way out of here. So Gustav, this is a bomb with a bunch of plastic explosives, so much that when it goes off, it will destroy this entire wing of the castle. Dracula, I have a little surprise for you. And he pops open the front of the pirate's chest, inside of which is a cheap plastic glow-in-the-dark green cross. And then Dracula and Gustav both go, and it turns out that the giant green cross is the cross of Silesia. So up until this point, we have cared about the Magyar cross, which has been like the big MacGuffin. Now for this one episode only, and never again, is the cross of Silesia, which is like a big fucking deal. And then Gustav is like, oh my God, wasn't this like lost for the ages? And Ger's like, yeah, but I found it. Don't worry. And I'm like, did you just yada yada finding like this ancient artifact that like has been lost for centuries? Like, oh sure, fuck it. That next to the plastic explosives, I guess. Why not?
No, and it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there.
So Dracula is like, oh, I'm getting so weak. Oh no, the cross. And Ger's like, yeah. So this cross will not only. So at first I was like, oh, it's making him sick. But then Ger explains it, and it sounds sort of like it takes away all of his vampire powers and makes him like immortal, but also makes him like a mortal who is like so weak that he can't move. Is kind of the vibe that the intention that I get from it.
But it's not going to work on Klaus because Klaus has the special silk of Silesia or something.
Silk of Silesia, yeah.
In his cape. This was like the reveal off. It was like, oh, let me show you. And he like wheeled over his cart and he's like, I have plastic explosives. And this cross that has been missing for generations. Don't worry, I found it. And also I like made myself a special cape that's like lead lined. Like it's just like, what is happening? I kept waiting for it to be more, like for there to just be.
Well, it kept being more. It kept being like, but wait, there's more, and like he'd like pop open a new door in the pirate's chest, and like, So the chest is lined with lead. Lead, I guess, dampens the power of the cross of Silesia, but also if you're wearing a snazzy cape made of the silk of Silesia, that works the same as lead and also blocks the powers. So Ger still has vampire powers. Dracula is now weak and dying. So Ger's like, cool, I hate both of you. Both of you suck. You're going to die together. I'm having such a great time. Peace out. So he leaves the room. So then Dracula and Gustav, because they're only adults in a room together in the show's like, what if we're good again? Hold up. So they start debating good and evil. Like the nature of goodness, the nature of evil. And I'm like, holy shit, this show is so amazing. So Dracula starts talking about how he used to drink with Shakespeare, and Shakespeare got some ideas from him, and Gustav's like what, like Richard III or Titus Andronicus? And then Dracula is like, he starts quoting from Titus Andronicus, which is my favorite Shakespeare play because it's so messed up, and like, of course Dracula would like Titus Andronicus because like people are baked into pies and they have their arms and legs chopped off and shit, like, of course. So Dracula goes, if one good deed I ever did, I do repent it from my very soul. And I was like, yay. Yay. I like this show. This show is so great. So they start talking about Bram Stoker, and Dracula's like, I was really angry at first when Bram Stoker wrote that novel, and then everyone started making all these movies, and they basically turned me into this big dumb cartoon character. And then I realized that like, if everyone thought that I was just this silly, like, fictional character, I could do whatever I wanted because no one would ever believe that I really existed. And I was like, you're just going to throw that out to me? You're going to throw that, like, crazy, amazing, interesting, like, nugget of thing that a whole TV show could be based? You're just going to, like, toss that out to me?
Just going to drop it. Just drop it right fucking right there.
Yeah, and we're never going to deal with it ever again. I was like, what? Yep. What is this?
Yep. We also get that line from Geordie where he's talking about Shakespeare and he goes, I was having so much fun. I didn't even bite him because we were just best friends. And he's just like this, like, I had so much fucking fun with Shakespeare. He was the man. And it's just this like moment of wistful, like, I miss him.
Which, would you not love to watch a TV show where Geordie Johnson as Dracula hangs out with someone as William Shakespeare? Like, I would watch the shit out of that show.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Watch the show. Just give him his own show where he's not dealing with plucky teens. Where he's just off dealing with like he has to keep doing good deeds against his will. Like that's the show that he needs to be in. Where he's like, fuck, fine. God, I don't want to do this.
Or like the Dracula Shakespeare comedy hour. I'm like, I'm here. I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. So, which to be fair, the Dracula Shakespeare comedy hour is pretty much the Ger and Dracula experience. But okay. Yeah. So this is when Dracula Geordie Johnson makes that comment where he's like, I really think Laurence Olivier or George Raft would have been more appropriate to play me as a character, but like I think having why can't I think of his name? The Dracula.
Bela Lugosi.
I think having Bela Lugosi like made me like goofy enough that it like worked for my purposes, and I was like, did you just like how many like 6-year-olds watching this are like, oh my God, Laurence Olivier and George Raft? Like, what? Like, who did you write this show for? Like, that is my only question to any of the writers. Who was your audience? Is it me existing both as a 6-year-old and a 36-year-old? Because that is the only version of this that like makes any sense to me. Honestly,
the kids and the parents watching it with them.
But like, what parent? Did you know who George Raft was when you watched this? I'd never heard of George Raft.
I might have been if I was a parent in the 90s.
That's a fucking lie, and you know it. How dare you?
I don't know. Wasn't a parent in the 90s.
Were you watching a lot of gangster movies? 1940s gangster movies?
Well, in the 1990s, watching a 1960s movie would have been like watching a 1990s movie now.
Yeah, but these are from the 40s. These are like significantly.
Meg.
But that's my point. It's like the references are so particular
it's to make Dracula feel old, and it works.
I guess. I guess that he's making references that like nobody knows, but it's
right.
It's like the whole like nugget that I keep coming back to, which is like it doesn't feel like when you're watching like Shrek and there's like kid jokes and adult jokes. It feels like this was made.
It feels like Dracula's in a different show. Yes. It feels like Geordie is in a different show. Yeah, he's in this visually, but everything else, he's not with.
As we will learn in about 10 seconds, vampires do exist outside of time and space. So maybe.
Well, and this is the scene where his hair comes out of his like, because normally it's like gelled into this like slick back vampire hairdo thing, because all vampires must have slicked tamed hair.
Yeah, it is known.
Yeah, and so because he's lost his vampire powers, his hair can't hold together anymore, and so it's like loose, and it ends up like. Well, you don't realize how long it is, first of all, when it's all like coiffed. But Geordie with like loose, longer hair, it did things, Meg. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I didn't know I liked that, but I really liked that.
Yeah, I will remind our audience again, these episodes are freely available to stream on YouTube until someone shuts them down. And
they've been up for 8 years, so I think we're good.
I would not sleep on young Geordie Johnson. I'm just gonna say.
No.
Although the way that he kisses is very upsetting, and we'll get to there in a second.
Oh, I texted you like, I was like, oh, his hair came out. Oh. I was like, this is doing things, Meg.
Yeah, young Geordie Johnson, even at his evilest in this plucky children's show, it's out of mind. Good for you, Geordie Johnson. I like a man in a white bow tie and a tuxedo. Turns out. So, anyways, Dracula gets weaker and weaker and sexier. It's a real problem.
It's a real problem
for us as adults watching. Mm-hmm. So Gustav and Dracula are like, well, we're both gonna die, so we should probably try to kill each other, and then one of us will have victory at last. And I was like, oh, sure, fucking men. Yeah. Okay. So we leave them. We go into the hallway. We know that the kids are sneaking into the castle because they know that Gustav is there. We leave Gustav and Dracula fighting to the death. The kids are sneaking into the castle to try to find Gustav. And Klaus is like flying around like a bat. He sees them and he chases them into like a broom closet. And he's like, you know what would be hilarious? If I run back to Gustav and Dracula and I'm like, hey, guess what? I murdered the children. Okay, bye. Die now. And I was like, holy shit. This show is so fucking dark. I really like it. Because he's not like, I'm going to kill the kids and then tell them that I killed the kids. He's like, no, I think it would just be hilarious that their last thought before they are blown into smithereens is that they failed to save and, or I guess in Dracula's case, kill these plucky children, and I murdered them, and I bested them once again. So Ger's like, that would be so fucking funny. So he giggles to himself and like skips down the hall. So he goes back to the only room we ever see in the castle, and we've got Gustav and Dracula on the ground with like their hands on each other's throats.
They're like embracing on the ground.
It's the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. And like, again, up to this point, we've seen like 95 vampires die. And every time they die, they like, their skeletons become like red hot and they explode. So like, you know that he's not dead because he's not a skeleton or a pile of dust. Like, you think that like Ger would know that because he also is a vampire, but whatever. So he sees them on the ground. He has a dramatic speech to them, which I feel like this is like the essence of the show. Because he's like, my two fathers, if you'd only listened to me, if you'd only respected me, if you had only loved me, I would have killed you anyway. And I'm like, okay. So we start off dramatic monologue and we end it goofy undercutting. That's this show. That is this fucking show. Yes. Just drama. And I'm just, okay, sure. So Ger is like doing that weird Klaus insane giggle the whole time where I'm like, I know it's meant to creep me the fuck out, but it makes me want to rip all my skin off of my body. Like, I don't like it. I don't like that noise that he makes.
It's like,
yeah, it's this really high pitched like clown giggle. Like, I mean, kudos on doing, like, it did what it was supposed to do. It like hurt me in my body. So, then he's like, wait a minute, shouldn't Dracula like not be a corpse? And Dracula's like, fooled you, and jumps up and like they grab each other. Gustav gets the card key from Klaus's pocket, and then he goes over to the bomb, and the bomb is like ticking down like 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds, and Gustav is standing there like staring at the card key, and I'm like, you're going to die. Why can't you figure like just swipe it? Just fucking swipe it. I was like, this is stressing me. Like, I know this is a children's show, you're not going to be exploded, but like I was like, why are you like, you have the card key, you have the bomb, fucking defuse it. But he's like standing there like staring at the card key, and then when he gets down to like 2 seconds, he's like, flip, and he like swipes it through, and it stops the bomb. And I was like, if that hadn't worked, you would have had there were no more seconds to fix it.
Yeah.
So, Ger is in Dracula's arms. Ger like does that like switch again where he's like, oh, dad, like, okay, like you can kill Dracula now. Like, Dracula is still weak because the cross of Silesia is still out, like shooting him full of radiation or whatever. Like, you can kill him and we can be together again, dad. Like, dad, I love you. And I'm like, oh, like this is like, I love watching. I love any scene where Ger has to like do like the personality flip like directly in front of someone and like act like they're not going to know that you just like threw a mask on very obviously in front of them. Ger tries to get Gustav to kill Dracula. Dracula is like, we were partners. I'm like, how many episodes are we going to have a vampire and a human like being buddy cop, and then one of them having to convince the other one like to honor their agreement? But so Dracula's like, we were partners, and Gustav is like, yes, I honor all my deals. So he flips the little door shut on the pirate's booty chest. The cross goes away. Dracula immediately gets all of his Dracula powers back, which sadly for us includes the slick back hair. So no more sexy hair.
I know.
So Ger runs away. He does his figure skating spin to fly away because you have to. That is the only thing that would have made this show better is if they had done What We Do in the Shadows and everyone screamed bat when they turn into a bat.
Only Matt Berry does.
Does no one else do it? Is it just Matt Berry?
Just Matt Berry.
In my head, like that's just so associated with the show that like I hear everyone say it in my head.
And that's what he made that up. That was his like thing.
It's kind of perfect. Like I want all vampires from now on to say bat when they become bat.
Bat.
It's just so funny. So Ger does his like 3-point figure skating spin. He flies off. So then we have a standoff between Gustav and Dracula's like, I'm Dracula, like I don't hold to any deals. I'm going to eat you now. And that's when the plucky kids show up and they throw another cross in Dracula's face. And I think they take the cross of Silesia with them and they run away, but they leave that episode anyways.
Yeah, so, I think that's when he goes, what an expected interruption.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's like, well, I haven't seen these plucky kids in 8 minutes, so probably they're somewhere in my walls. They're like rodents. They're like when you like lose a guinea pig in the walls and you can hear it like that's what these children are. So, okay, then we have my second favorite episode. So I feel like I have 2 favorite non-Ger episodes. The first one obviously is the Kim Coates vampire movie star episode because like heartbreaking. The next one is called I Love Lucard, and it's so fucked up. It is so messed up and so heartbreaking. And like, again, children's show. Like so the basic premise of this, so the name obviously like name checks I Love Lucy, which maybe a 6-year-old in the 90s would have known. I don't know. That was on TV, I guess. But the whole plot, it basically calls back to Casablanca. And even at the very beginning, they have like a little black and white like recreation of the ending of Casablanca, but with Chris and Sophie as like the main characters, and then Dracula shows up dressed like a Nazi. Perfect. Fucking perfect. So like and this black and white Casablanca parody is supposedly written by Max in his screenplay or in his like novel that he's writing, and I'm like, did this 10-year-old like copycat, like he couldn't sit through one black and white movie at the movie theater, but he knows Casablanca well enough to like imitate it in his book. Sure. Fucking yeah, the shore doesn't give a shit. So anyways, so this novelist comes into town. They call him a novelist, but like he has written a book where it sounds like he's just name checking like every person that he has found in real life who is actually a vampire, and they keep calling it a novel. And I'm like, a novel is a fiction. It's a work of fiction. Like that's what a novel is.
Yeah.
This is like a tell-all, but they keep calling him a novelist, so whatever. But he comes into town. He's like, I've got this book that's going to name all vampires. The novelist's wife. So he's human, his wife is human, his human wife, Margot, is Dracula's ex-girlfriend. And I was like,
yes.
What? Fucking what? Okay, so they come into town. He goes to see Gustav because he was one of Gustav's former students, because I guess Gustav taught at some fucking point. That I feel like was never a thing that was ever addressed before now, but like now he's a teacher. Was it?
I think we've had a couple
maybe
people talk about his lectures. Yeah.
His lectures. Okay. So he was a former student of Gustav. Gustav is like, maybe you shouldn't be writing a whole book name checking all the vampires because they will come and kill you. And that seems like a bad deal. And he's like, no, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. So Dracula is like, well, I need to kill that guy. And I'm like, do you though? Because like if he's a novelist and all he writes is fiction, and then he comes up with a tell-all book, just like if I wrote a book tomorrow that was like Elon Musk is a vampire, do you know what I mean? Like who? Like no one's gonna give a shit until I disappear, and then I think they're gonna give a lot of shits. So like, but anyways, the reality of the show is a little skewed. So the novelist's wife, Margot, is like, I need to go and see Dracula and basically like beg for my dumb husband's life. So she goes and has dinner with Dracula, and like it is such an interesting, poignant scene. So they're at Dracula's like mile-long dinner table. I think it's still the one room that we've ever seen in the castle.
There's only one room.
There's only one room. Yeah, but it's like from the other angle where you can see the fireplace. So they're sitting there in front of that fireplace, and he's like, doesn't this remind you of when we lived in New York and we had a life together and how great it was? And she's like, how could I possibly stay with you? You're a vampire. And he's like, first off, I am the greatest of all vampires. So I can obviously keep my my vampire evil in check. And I would keep it in check because of you, because of how much I love you. I would never, ever hurt you. And it's very like poignant and delicate. And she's like, my husband needs me, like you don't need me. And that's the one thing I don't like about this episode is the character of Margot is like, well, I could be with Dracula or I could be with, I don't remember, my husband, the novelist. And my husband, the novelist, like needs someone to tell him what to do and like wipe his ass and wipe his nose and like take care of him. So I guess that's what I'm going to stay with. And I'm like, that's the dividing line between Dracula and this rando guy, is that you're a human woman, so you need to be the caretaker. You need to like fix him and improve him and make him better and like be his helpmeet.
Yes. Meanwhile, Jordy Johnson is sitting there going, I would never harm you. I love you, and I loved our time together so much it almost made me feel human. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, but what if nobody buys him groceries or cooks him dinner? Is he even going to eat?
Which I was like, there's 100 reasons why he would choose random human man over immortal evil vampire with like an empire that's like poisoning the earth and like killing people.
Yeah, obviously.
There's like a million reasons. And instead she's like, well, I have to make his bed for him or he would have a dirty bed. Like, I was like, okay. All right, Margot. Like, I feel like I don't know that this episode was written by a man, but like, I feel like it definitely was. And they fumbled the fuck out of it in that point.
It was written by a man.
Yeah. So she's like, I have to take care of him. And I was like, okay. But the rest of the scene is so good because you're right. He's like, I felt human in those moments when we were together. And like, I control the vampirism. It does not control me. And I would never hurt you. And we had a great life together. And like, also, hi, I'm like a billionaire playboy and I look like Jordy Johnson in his prime. And she's like, So
soft pass.
So she's like, what if I give you, my husband is super superstitious, and he only ever has like the one copy of any book that he writes, and he writes it like on a typewriter, so there's not even like a computer copy, and I'll give that to you, and then you can throw it in the fire, and then he won't have the book and he can't publish it. And Dracula's like, yes to that. I definitely want that. But also, I need you to stay here with me forever. And she's like, could I just give you the book? And he's like, no, it's a twofer or nothing, or I murder your fucking husband. And she's like, okay, I guess. So, she's like, I need you to promise not to hurt my husband from the bottom of your soul. And I like the look on Jordy Johnson's face when he's like, I promise this, because I feel like the look on his face is like, I do not have a soul. I will promise you this because it does not matter to me, because I am just, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's like a lot of like layers happening in his expression. There's like a lot of things like flitting across his face. He's like, I can promise this because it means absolutely nothing to me. So okay. So he's like, I promise this from the bottom of my soul. And then he goes, now I will ask you to show me something of your own soul, which is the creepiest sentence I think anyone has ever said out loud ever. And then they have the worst kiss I've ever seen. And like, I'm just going to assume that it's because this was a children's show and they didn't know like how hard or soft to like play this.
You should have asked Ger. Ger would have been like, anything below the nose, really.
He's in the wings, like throwing popcorn at them. He's like, boo, boo,
no, not enough tongue.
He's throwing beer bottles at them.
I would do better. You would. But
it's like the weirdest. I don't know that I've ever seen Jordy Johnson kiss in anything else. I'm going to assume that he's like a great kisser in everything else he's been in. I'm going to assume this lady actress is a great kisser in everything else she's been in. But like this kiss of them together is like very slow and deliberate. And it sort of looks like Jordy Johnson is like blowing air into her mouth. Like it's a weird, I'm like, are you sucking when you should blow? Are you blowing when you should suck? Are you like talking to her with your lips together? Like, I don't know what's happening, but I watched it twice because I was like, I must have like made it worse in my head. Like it just seemed bad and I like blew it up in my brain. I watched it again the second time and I was like, nope, no, that's a weird kiss. I don't like it. And it's like very slow. And then the camera like pans down to like some candles and it's like very like Vaseline on the lens, like very like romantic. And I was like, okay, but he just like
fade to black.
He just like threatened the life of her husband and said like, I'm basically going to Beauty and the Beast enslave you into my house. And we're sealing it with the world's most uncomfortable kiss. I don't like that you're filming this like it's romantic. Like it's I don't know how I feel about that. So then we end up having a scene. We cut to Jordy Johnson with the weirdest convertible I've ever seen in my life, where he has like a door that slides into the interior of the car the way an automatic window does.
Yeah, it rolls down like the whole door rolls down like a window.
Yeah, but it only rolls down like slightly lower than like what a window would roll down, and then he has to like hop over the side of the car. I was like, what? I've never seen anything like this in my entire. It's like a very weird.
It's a BMW.
I guess it's fancy. I guess that's what fancy cars were like in 1990.
Yeah.
So Jordy like hops out, and it turns out that vampires have no powers in the daylight. So at first we thought vampires could just be in the daylight because they had that super powerful sunscreen that they like mentioned like as a one-off joke like 19 episodes ago. And now they're like, no, it turns out that they can all be in the daytime, but they're just normal human people in the daytime in terms of like powers and stuff. And I was like, sure, just fucking, yeah, in the middle of Casablanca, throw out some vampire lore and then go right back to Casablanca. Sure, why not?
Yeah, game's made up and the points don't matter. Yes. No gods, no rules.
Yeah, that's how this show ran. So we've got Dracula and novelist wife, and Dracula's like, hey, novelist wife, hey, Margot, like you were right. Your husband needs you. Like he needs you to take care of him. And she's like, well, what if like you needed me? And he's like, I never thought I needed anyone before, and I don't want to know if I'm wrong now. And I was like, wow. Oh, okay. All right. Like, again, this show goes hard when it wants to go hard. Yeah, it is a very heartfelt, dramatic.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, thank you. I release you. I like, it literally was like that scene in Beauty and the Beast, which again, even though it's a cartoon, also has some moments where it goes pretty hard. But it's like, my heart is breaking, but this is what's best for you. Like, I am choosing you over my own needs. Like, I release you. I'm letting you go. So he gives the manuscript back to the writer. He's like, publish and be damned. That's a quote from the Duke of Wellington. P.S. He was a vampire too. Psych, get on the plane with your wife before I change my mind. Just go. Just like, I release you, like, go and be happy. Max shows up and he's like, I got a cross. And they're all like, we're adults. We're having a moment, Max. Like, fuck off. So
fuck off,
like, okay.
Max. Put the cross down, Max.
Okay.
Max is like, oh, I misread the situation. I'm sorry. And he's like, what's the cross down?
You guys are having grown-up time. Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize we were in that part of the episode. Okay, go back to acting. I'll be over here.
I'm going to be over the craft services table. So, so Dracula, like, I don't think, does he kiss Margot goodbye? He says goodbye to Margot at any rate. And so Margot and the husband go on the plane, and then we cut to, so he's looking super heartbroken, like, as they go onto the plane. And it's like, it's a very tender, dramatic episode where you see into Dracula's heart. And I feel like you don't get any of that interior, you don't get that introspection like at any other episode. You like, it opens the door to something so interesting. And then, because this is the dumbest show ever, what do they have to do? They have to undercut it in the most traumatizing way possible. So Dracula says goodbye to them. They get on the plane to fly off to wherever they're going to like publish the tell-all book. We cut to Dracula in front of his fireplace, looking like shit, like looking like he's been through a bender. And he has his zombie servant bring him 2 snifters of brandy, because, children's show. So he's standing there in front of the fireplace. I think doesn't he end up throwing the brandy like into the fireplace?
Both of them. Yep.
Yeah. Don't just say no to alcohol, kids. So he throws the alcohol into the fireplace, and he's like, it's interesting the way that like that fuel works is you have to have like the correct mix, the correct percentage of like fuel and oxygen, the correct mix in the tank. Otherwise, the plane will fall out of the air. And so he basically admits to his zombie butler that he sabotaged the plane. He like somehow figured out how to get just the right mix of fuel and oxygen so that the plane would like get up into the air successfully and like fly for a couple of feet and then immediately crash and kill everyone on board.
He said about an hour.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like, again, we have this really tender, like, oh, Dracula loves someone. Fuck you. No, he doesn't. He's like,
she didn't choose him. So,
yeah. So she had to die. Yeah. He's like, he has this whole little, like, traumatized monologue to himself. And it's a very good monologue. Like, it's very emotional, but like, it really, like, undercuts everything we saw in the entire episode before that. So, like, for that reason, I really, like, I'm annoyed by it. But he's talking about how, like, I'm not going to have this. I'm not going to have love. Like, I had a chance and, like, it's gone now. But it's fine because I'm rich and I'm hot and I'm going to live forever. And I was like, show! Like, fucking show. You had a chance. Yeah. You had a chance to be something more. And then you're like, nah, it's fine. He's just evil. Like,
yeah.
Evil.
Well, because they remembered they were for 10-year-olds and they were like, oh, are we going to make him evil? Because instead it's him like, I promised I would never hurt her. And then I hurt her. Yeah. And so maybe I don't get love. Maybe I don't get that.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but tee-hee-hee. And you're like, oh, okay. They forgot for like 2 seconds. And they were like, oh, right. Our audience is elementary school kids.
But like, that's my point is it's like the romance part, I feel like is not for the 10-year-olds. The undercutting it like he's evil is for 10-year-olds, but like they're not just like, oh, he's a jerk. He fucking murders them. They die in a horrible plane
and
crash.
Everyone else on the plane.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's like a private jet, so it seems like it wouldn't be that many people, but yeah, he just like casually killed the pilot and the 2 of them, and yeah, anyone else who was on the plane, just like very casually, whatever. And I'm like, he just straight up murdered the love of his life in this show for children.
And then he breaks the second glass and he's like, this is for you, Margot, for teaching me about the true meaning of love.
That's so dark.
And then he breaks the glass again. He breaks
so
both glasses.
Fucking dark.
And you're like, what just happened? What What? Wait.
The end.
Wait. Come back. Like, I need to know.
This show goes so hard.
I need that whole television. Like, I need that series. That, like, one whole story arc where we start out with Dracula. He meets Margot. He falls in love. They have their time in New York. And then they drift apart. And then they meet up again.
Wouldn't that be amazing to watch?
She doesn't choose him. And so he kills her. I would watch that.
Yeah. I would watch that. I would read that. I would go to the play. Like, it's just amazing.
Out of that.
Yeah.
And then him being like, she didn't choose me. Maybe I'm not worthy of being chosen. And then having to decide, like, do I become worthy of being chosen or do I just embrace who I am?
Yeah. The whole episode is him going, love or power, which one do I want? And if I take one, I can never have the other. Like, in this show for 10-year-olds, this whole show is like, we're going to go really, really hard. And then we're going to burn the script and shoot the writer and go back to like goofy Scooby-Doo dog mysteries. Like I got nothing. Cause like, okay. So we literally go from this episode to Gustav trying to write his memoirs. And like, I just want to say real quick, he starts his memoir by going chapter 1, page 1, line 1, which is just how Ger does his little Shakespeare quotes. And I was like, oh, I see what you did. I see what you did there, you guys. You like tie them together a little bit. Like, I got it. I got what you did. The rest of this next episode is all about a vampire with amnesia who doesn't know he's a vampire, which why was this also in Forever Night? Why were there 2 amnesiac vampires?
That was like a 90s staple.
Amnesia? I guess. So like it's like the goofiest, like.
I just want the hot and steamy shirt.
Yeah, so this for the audience who have not seen this episode,
go watch it.
You should watch it, absolutely. There is a delivery man from the local schnitzel delivery place because everyone only eats schnitzel in this whole town, and the schnitzel delivery restaurant is called Hot and Steamy. So the delivery man is wearing a tight white t-shirt, rolling over his little belly, and it says Hot and Steamy on it, and like
yes.
I think we're all in agreement that we all need a hot and steamy t-shirt because like again, show for children. But like it goes so hard from like Dracula and the love of his life and like what do you choose, love or power? Like what kind of man are you going to be? To Schnitzel, an amnesiac vampire who gets locked in a coffin because Dracula's like, I could kill you, but you're actually sort of interesting, like the psychological experience that's going on here. I'm going to lock you in a coffin with a magical silver nail, and I'm going to like store you in my attic, like in The Hunger.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lock you up and I'll visit you in a little while because like, this is neat. You're a neat toy. Okay, bye. That's the whole fucking episode. And I'm like, you just took me away from Dracula's girlfriend to this horse shit? Like, Okay, whatever. So it doesn't matter. Okay. So then we end up having, as we talked about earlier, the clip episode where Gustav has a dream about a dinner party at Dracula's house. And why don't you talk about your new favorite way of doing the dishes, Rachel?
This is my favorite part of this whole episode because the rest of it's like a rehash. It's just a recap. But he serves everybody dinner and then everybody hands Dracula the plates. And I was like, what's Dracula going to do with the plates? And he walks over to the window and throws them out the window. And then they all stand there and stare at each other until we hear the plates hit at the bottom. And then he's like, well, that's done. It's like, this is how I'm going to do dishes from here on out. I'm just going to throw them out the window.
Throw them out the window, yeah. I do like that it went full Looney Tunes. Like he didn't just toss them out the window and you hear a crash. He tosses them out the window and we all have to wait because we're so high up in the air for the crash to happen. But yeah, I feel like the only thing that's like notable from that episode, besides Ger showing up in like a pink shirt and a yellow tie, like they dressed him it's sort of like the last episode of Murdoch Mysteries where they were like, shit, I don't know. We didn't think he was going to show up, but he's here. What do you got?
I don't know.
I got this shirt over here and that tie over there. Just throw it on him. It's fine.
Do we have a line for him? And Ger's like, I've got this. I am a master at improv. And he opens the door and we get the, hey, Dad, can I borrow your neck?
Goofy Ger is the weirdest fucking thing. Cause like,
I love it because you know that's probably who he is.
Oh, that is 100% who he is.
And then he always plays these like super melodramatic characters. And then every time he gets to like be goofy, it's like he's unleashed. He's like,
Yeah.
like yes.
But like manic laughter Ger is always like a little too much for me, where I'm always like, okay, all right. Like I don't need full on like horny melodrama Ger, but there's like horny melodrama Ger, and then there's like witty repartee Ger, and I'm like, I'm cool here. I'm cool in these two spots.
Yeah.
And then there's like goofy, insane, manic, they let me do whatever the fuck I want, like, Garrett. I'm like, oh shit. Oh God, calm down, sir. Calm down. You're giving me
you're here, I need you here.
You're giving me like a 12, I need you at like a 6.5. You're just because he's on screen for like all of 4 seconds. Yeah, he like knocks on the door to the room. Gustav walks over to the door, opens it open, and Gary, he's like, hi dad, can I borrow your neck? The way you would say, hi dad, can I borrow your car? But his head is like turned all the way to his shoulder. Like it's like that thing where you're like, where you see a super crazy character and they're like, their head is sideways, and just to like further emphasize how crazy they are. And I was like, oh fuck. They've dressed you like a clown. You're smiling like manically. You're like screaming. I was like, I don't like this. It's too much. But so we've got the throwing the dishes. We've got Ger in whatever the fuck clown clothes they had on set that day. And then, like I said, we had like that one little glimmer of like, does Sophie have psychological damage that Gustav is seeing and noticing, like from when she became a vampire very briefly? And like, has it affected her in terms of like her sexual self-identity, or like just like who's just her overall identity? And she's like rubbing herself and like touching her chest and like remembering when evil called to her. And I was like, holy shit, the show is never going to touch on that again. It's just a fun little teaser of a better show that they never did. So that's the whole dream sequence. And then of course it ends with Gustav being like, well, that's the last time I'll have schnitzel before bed. Sir, you only eat schnitzel. Your arteries are hard as a rock. Like, this is not the only time you've eaten schnitzel before bed, but like whatever. So, but I do like that they have Ger pop up only because it like reminds us that Ger is always on Gustav's mind. Like he's always thinking of him. Like his son is always like in the forefront, and he's just like, anytime we have any of the vampire cures, like they either are finite things that go away, or they're things that only work if you're like, we're just turned into a vampire, or they're the stream that only works if you have the weird blood disease or blood type, or I don't know, infection or whatever the fuck. So like, it's always like things that will work on everyone else, but not Klaus, never Klaus. It doesn't touch Klaus's disease. And so like, I like that it brings it up only because it's like, oh yeah, he's thinking about it. Like it matters to him. So then we get to the finale, which is, that is the finale, right? Klaus Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Klaus Encounters. Haha. And you're going to have to help me with the finale because I do not fucking understand any of it. It is like space-time physics shit. We should have brought Matt in for the finale because it is so above my mental pay grade. So I'm doing the best I can. You're going to have to like interrupt me to help me figure this out. Okay. So mom shows up again, Mom Eileen, and she's like, hey, I got yet another promotion. We're going to move back to Philly. And then I'm going to run like the Bank of Philadelphia from there, and you're going to get to like see all your friends again, and it's going to be great. And the kids are all like panicky because they're like, no, we're like master vampire hunters. We're hunting vampires here. So she's like, I need to go and finish training my replacement. And of course, who is her replacement but Ger? And they do that thing, which I love, which is when they're pretending to be human people, their hair is not slicked back, but it's like still more slicked back than they would be if they were human. They have like 3 layers of hair. They have like all the hair gel, some hair gel, no hair gel. So when Ger is in his I'm a vampire in the daytime mode, he has medium hair gel, so it's still kind of slicked back, but not like in a way that clearly reads vampire. They have him in a little suit, which is how you know he's bad. And he is talking with Eileen. They drive around, and he's like, hey, do you want to have dinner with Alexander Lucard? And she's like, I know him. I feel like I did have dinner with him once, but I have no actual memories of that event. That's probably not a problem. I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah. And she's like, oh, but I said that I would take my kids out tonight. And Ger's like, they'll get over it. And she's like, you know what?
They will.
You and I are very similar. It's like, what?
She's like, oh yeah, totes. You're right, actually. Yeah.
Just a straight up like terrible mother. I fucking love it. Like not even 1 second of hesitation.
That's because he said they'll get over it, and her head went threesome. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And she was like, they'll get over it. I can go to the zoo anytime. About to get railed by Jordy and Ger. Yes.
I know if we search for like 5 minutes, like that is a fanfic that has been written. I know it's out there. And if it's not yet, it will be by the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So she's like, you and I are just the same. And he's like, oh, how so? And I was like, oh, hey, Ger voice. Hey, what up? Hey. So he's like, how so? And she's like, because you and I both go for the jugular. And he's like, ha, vampire joke. So
he goes, yeah, it's second nature to me.
Yeah. But I like that. I don't know what building they're walking into. I don't know if it's meant to be like a bank building for their job, but I like that when they walk up the steps, Ger does the patented Ger move of like hand right on the small of her back, guiding her up the steps. And I was like, good job, sir. Good job.
The National Bank of Europe.
The one bank in all of Europe. So, so we have that scene where they're together. We shoot back to the house. We've got, all of a sudden now, like Gustav, who in the past was just sort of like theoretically a vampire hunter, all of a sudden he's like doing experiments and shit because it's the last episode, so we have to like change everything up. So he's got one of the scarves from the vampire Contessa, who we haven't talked about her. I don't remember which episode she's in. There's a vampire lady who is rich because all vampires are rich, it turns out, and she tries to get Sophie to be her protege and be a vampire, and it doesn't work out. And this is one of the episodes where we learn that Dracula cannot tell if another vampire is within 50 feet of him until they pop their fangs out and try to bite him. So anyways, this lady was rich. She had a bunch of scarves. We have one of her scarves. Gustav has one of the scarves on a chair. He's got the Magyar cross. So the regular cross that's in the house, not the new glowing green cross that we saw like 2 episodes ago that we thought was going to be important, but it turns out no. And he somehow shoots magic out of the cross at the scarf. And the scarf looked like a contemporary scarf, like they had just bought it like yesterday. And then when they shoot it with the cross, it becomes like old and dusty and frail, and it looks like it's like 1,000 years old. And so that's how they learn somehow that vampires and also their clothing are trapped outside of time between the worlds of the living and dead. Does that make any kind of sense to you? Because
sure. Because otherwise, whatever they were wearing would reflect in the mirror. But when they look in the mirror, they don't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their clothes would also have to be affected, or their clothes would reflect.
So somehow all vampires are outside of time and space. But in this episode, we learn that Dracula is extra super outside of time and space.
Well, he has a magical portal. Which he's like, I can use it to travel around. Be like, dude, you can teleport already.
I have this. Okay, I'm doing the best I can with this finale, but like no part of it makes any sense to me at all. But anyway, so we've got the scarf. It's old, and then the kids are like, oh, we used the scarf, the cross magic to bring the scarf from outside of time and space into our current time and space. It like somehow like shot it into our reality. So Gustav is like, okay, I want to find a way to get to the place outside of time. So it's like all these objects and vampires are like walking around in our world, but like somehow like their particles, I guess, are like connected to a place outside of time. And that's why they don't age or change or anything. And Gustav wants to go to that place that their particles are like entwined with, is the best way that I can understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Don't worry about it. There's a place, and also they're walking around. Sure.
Yeah.
We end up having a dinner scene with Eileen and the family, and that's how we have to squeeze in another characteristic, because of course we do. Eileen is like, oh my God, I'm almost done training my replacement. He's like really smart. And characteristic, she's like, he is awfully cute. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, there it is.
One. There you got your one. It took you 21 episodes. You got your one. Congratulations.
He was like, I will come back for the finale on one condition.
Nobody has called me handsome.
Someone must tell me how pretty I am. And they were like, fine.
It has been 21 episodes and nobody has said anything about how nice I look. And I'm trying very hard. So he gets his one. He gets his one. So that's where we've got. I guess it's at this point that Ger's like, Eileen, come to dinner, and she's like, what about the kids? And he's like, they'll understand. So Gustav, because again, I guess they have keys to Dracula's house and they just go in whenever they want to. He goes to Dracula's house. He's walking around in the only room we've ever seen. He's got a Geiger counter and he's like waving it around and shit. When he gets to the fireplace, all of a sudden the Geiger counter is like exploding in his hands. It's like ding, 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 ding. And he's like, this seems like a thing. So he accidentally on purpose manages to pull a lever and all of a sudden the fireplace, the back wall slides away. And it's like every like Klieg light they had on set was like turned up to like all the way up to 100% power and shooting out of the fireplace. It is the brightest light I've ever seen in my entire life, shooting out of the fireplace. And they also have like a fog machine. So it's like fog and like bright light. And it's like, meow, meow, meow. And I was like, holy, what the fuck? What? So Gustav is standing there. He does not know what this is, this giant gaping light hole. He sticks his fucking hand in there. And I'm like, that's how you lose a hand, sir. But whatever.
It's like Stargate.
Yeah, I don't need that finger. It's fine. So he sticks his hand in there. He's wearing a watch and he pulls his hand out and the watch has stopped. And he's like, that's not the right time. And so he's like, obviously that means that this hole in the fireplace is outside of time and space. And I was like, your watch stopped and you immediately jumped to outside of time and space.
What else is the portal going to be?
Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
So Ger pops up and he's like, Dracula doesn't even know what that is. He thinks it's a hole in the fabric of time. He thinks it's his refuge. Fuck that guy. I hate Dracula. And so then we're going back and forth with the kids who are like, oh wait, Eileen is going to have a date with Ger. That seems like a bad idea. He'll love her and leave her. I don't want that to happen. So they pretend to be sick. They bring mom home. I don't think she even pops up. No, she does at the very, very end, I think. But she's like in the whole episode for like 8 minutes. She's in the entire series for like 12 minutes. And this is like the 8 minutes of that. So Gustav sees Dracula. He pops a cross out. Dracula like freaks out and runs into the void. And then that's when we learn that the void, he can use the void to travel wherever the hell he wants to travel, which again, he was already like teleporting and it didn't seem like he needed to like go to the fireplace to go to other places. He would just do a little figure skater dance and then end up where he wanted to be anyways. So like, I don't know why he needs the void, but he's like, oh no, a convenient hole. And he like runs in there. We've got Ger and Gustav and they're hanging out. And he's like, I was going to set a trap for Dracula with Eileen as bait. And he goes, she stood me up. Can you believe that? And I was like, did you just add that yourself, sir? Like, did you just?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Eileen was not even going to be in this episode. And Ger's like, I think I need a human woman to tell me I'm pretty and also to stand me up and for me to be so horrified that it offends my evil nature.
He was reading the script and he was like, I have a question about one of these scenes. And they were like, okay, Ger, what is it? And he was like, no woman logically would ever stand me up.
Could you explain her motivation, please? And they're like, no, her children tricked her. And he's like, okay, all right.
But I don't think the audience is going to believe it. That's why they have to look up a medical condition in a book, because it has to be something really bad. He's like, okay, but she can't ditch me if they just have like a cold or something. It's got to be a big thing. And they're like, fine, we'll make it a big thing. And he's like, okay.
Because, I mean, as you said, she thought she was showing up to the castle for a threesome between two hot 30-something vampires. So, like...
Makes it even worse that they call and her one son is like making throwing up sounds. Is it Kelly that said we need to have trigger warnings for my vomiting sounds?
Oh yeah. Sorry, we both. I didn't realize until she said that how many times per episode both of us go. Sorry, Kelly. I'm sorry. So
trigger warning.
Trigger warning. That's, we may make a couple more barfy noises. So Ger's like, I was going to use her as bait, but she stood me up. Weird. You're not going to get the chance to use your stakes on me. I'm going to kill you. Like, and this is again like a great. We have another great like Ger and Bernard Barron's like monologue.
Yes.
He's like, when will you get it through your head, old man? I am already dead. I don't want to be brought back. And Gustav is like, don't go into the fireplace. You don't know what's in there. And I'm like, bitch, you just stuck your whole arm in there. But like, yeah, now
it's
you're
fine,
smart.
Whatever.
He's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get you back out of the void. Like, you could be killed. And that's when Ger's like, how can I get this through your thick head, old man? I am already dead. And he's like yelling at him and like so
he's
viscerally
like, I'm
upset.
not your son anymore. You gotta let me go.
Yeah. The only way that I'm going to get you to understand I'm not your son is by killing you once and for all. That is the only way that I can put an end to your dreams of my redemption. And I was like, thank you.
I know. You're
so
like,
good.
What? It's the like, you are a reminder of the life that I left behind and you won't let me let it go.
Yeah.
And I want you to let me go so that I can let me go.
You're my last painful tie to that life that I no longer have and no longer can have. Release me. Free me from this. And if the only way that you can free me is by your death, then I will kill you. Like, I just, like, full on, like, Shakespeare drama. And, like, I feel like Ger could have played this, like, really silly. And, like, obviously his character, the Klaus character, like, when he gets upset, his voice gets, like, a little high-pitched, like, a little squeaky. But, like, the way he plays it is so emotionally, like, tormented. I would, like... This show gives so much. It takes away when it's the goofy children's comedy hour, but then it goes back to like this great father-son tragedy. Like, so good. So we keep intercutting with Dracula, who has pinged his way from the fireplace into the family's house because the Cross the Magyars isn't there anymore, so he has free entrance. And he's basically doing like yakety sacks, chasing the fucking kids around the house. And I'm like, I could give, like, Jordy Johnson, I love you, man. I could give zero shits. I don't care. Kill all the children, eat them, suck their blood till they're dry.
No, it's fine.
Like, make them Capri Sun packs. I don't care. Go back to Ger. So
Go back.
So we've got Gustav and Ger, and they're having their like conversation. And Gustav is on the floor because Ger has thrown him on the floor next to the staircase, and he is just like this little crippled shell of a man, like reaching out to his son, who is like throwing him away. So Ger is like, I guess I better eat you because that's the only way you will shut the fuck up forever. So he runs at him. And Gustav holds up the Cross the Magyars, and it is so powerful that it like flings Ger backwards into the fireplace. And Gustav is sitting there staring at this void that he thinks his son has been. It's like staring into the sea when you know someone has just fallen in, and you don't think they're ever going to come out again. Like, you have just seen them fall into the abyss of nothingness. And the look on Bernard Baron's face as he's staring into this void is like, he should have won all the awards. He should have won all the awards for just that moment, that heartbreaking realization on his face of, oh my God, what have I done? I can't save him now. He's gone forever. Like, he is just deflated. He has just collapsed into like nothingness. So we end up having... Dracula comes back. It doesn't fucking matter. So he leaves the house. So the kids are like, hey, let's go find Uncle Gustav. So they all run into, again, the only room in the entire castle. They see Gustav, and Gustav is like sitting in the chair now in front of the fireplace, and he still looks like a doll, like a marionette with all the strings cut, like just nothing. So they pick up Gustav, and Gustav is like I basically flung Klaus into the fireplace, and they're like, isn't that good? And I don't remember if he says he was my son at that point. He says,
there's something I have to tell you guys.
Yes. Yeah, he's about to tell them. So then Max picks up the Cross the Magyars, like just to grab it off the floor, basically. And he's holding it in his hands, and it like turns on by itself and shoots lightning at the void, which somehow brings Ger back as a human man
in
and
a
I was like,
tennis club outfit.
And the best. So when we talked last time about the softer side of Sears, here it is. Here's the softest side of Sears.
I love that cardigan. I would wear that cardigan.
It is the 90th.
It's like white Dockers, like a white polo shirt, and then like an oversized white cardigan with the green and red stripes around the lapel.
Yes. It is the 90th. And little white sneakers. And to show that he's human, his hair has gone, it's not full slick, it's not partial slick, it is no slick. And I don't know, it's what's like what you said before, like the secret characteristic of Ger, like getting hired on a show and then being like, fuck it, no more haircuts for me. Because his hair is so big. His hair is so wild. And like I said, I know when you have like hair gel and stuff in your hair, when you take it out, sometimes your hair looks like just like bigger and poofier and wilder just like once all the hair gel like gets out of it. His hair is like, it's mushroom cut, but it's like extra big mushroom cut. I don't know how, it's like mushroom cut if someone walked up to you and like put both hands on top of your head and went noogie noogie noogie. Like it's like big. It's insane. So he comes out, and the way you know he's good obviously is because he's wearing all white and like looks like he's gonna go play tennis, and he's like, Dad, hey Dad. And I was like, why did you go full goofball like at this point? You were giving me like dramatic monologues 12 seconds ago, and now you're like, hey Scooby-Doo, let's go for a ride. I was like, but whatever. He's happy to be with his human dad, whatever, it's fine. So he comes out, and Gustav is like his mind is like shattered and broken. He's like, oh my God, like my son came back to me, and they're hugging each other, and they're having like this reunion that they've always wanted, and it's wonderful. So Dracula comes out of the fireplace at this point. I just want to say he's clearly standing on like a little dolly.
No, it's a skateboard. He skateboards. He skateboards the shit out of that. He just like, yeah.
It is clearly, he's clearly standing on a platform with wheels, and someone is like holding a rope attached to it and going across the floor.
My first thought was, Jordy on a skateboard.
we have never seen him move this way in any previous episode. And like he is in every single episode. Every single one. We've seen him do a little dance. We've seen him fly. We've seen him run at people. We've seen him like get shot with lightning and fall backwards. We have never seen him stood on a dolly and inched across the floor by a crew member, which is what happens here. So first off, they put him in the worst version of the vampire makeup, the I have no eyebrows, so I must scream vampire makeup. They put him on the dolly cart, they're like, and they like pull him across the floor real quick, and he's like, and so it looks like a living statue is being like yanked across the floor. So he comes out of the fireplace, and he's like, I don't really care about Klaus as like a personal assistant, but fuck you if you're going to take a single goddamn thing for me. Fuck all of you. So they have a human tug of war
with Ger. And he's like, Dad, don't let go.
It's like that other episode. It's like the I Love Lucard episode where they get like 4 minutes from the end and they're like, wait, are we for children? Oh shit, we're for children. Okay. So yeah, they do literally a tug of war where Jordy has one arm and Bernard Behrens has the other arm, and Ger's in the middle in his tennis whites being like back and forth. He's like, Dad, save me, Dad, save me. And Dracula obviously is stronger than a little old man. So he yanks Ger, and Ger has to do this hilarious like, no, Dad, like as he's like flung into the fucking fireplace again with Jordy Johnson.
Yeah.
And so we've got Ger flung into the fireplace with Jordy Johnson. Gustav is obviously upset about it. Max gives Gustav the cross the Magyars
and his bag of tools and his bag of tools. And he's like, go get him.
Yeah. And he disappears into the fucking fireplace. The fireplace that we know that Dracula can come in and out. We know that Ger was able to come out because he was shot with the cross of the Magyars. But now the cross of the Magyars is going to be with Gustav inside the fireplace. We have no idea if that's going to work, what it's going to do. Maybe it turns off when it's inside there because it's outside time and space. Maybe Gustav being human, maybe when he walks in, it'll set his hair on fire. You don't know. We don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, and I'm sure we would have answered all of those questions completely satisfactorily in the second season.
Oh, 100%. They thought it out. I know that they thought it out.
They knew all
of the... They had physicists on staff.
Yes.
Yeah, planned. So, so he's like, all right, I guess I'm going in. And he just like marches in there after them. And then we just leave the children. We just have the children who saw their like great uncle walk into a fireplace that they don't know if he's ever going to come out of. They think they're going to America. So we like leave on this like traumatic moment. We get back to the house and we find out that somehow Gustav had like a phone with him inside the void.
The cross of the Magyars.
I guess
he lifted a little panel and there was a keypad and he was like, boop. boop, boop, boop.
It's like the Garfield phones that everyone had in the 90s where you like pick up the Garfield's back, but it's the Cross of the Magyars. Yeah.
Yes.
That would have been an amazing tie-in merchandise option. Can you even imagine this
Cross the Magyars
Cross
phone?
the Magyars princess phone? Oh my God. So so somehow he has, I'm like, I've never seen any character in this entire show with a cell phone, but like, okay, sure. So he somehow calls Eileen from inside the void outside of time and space.
He's a better parent than she ever was.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He's like, hey, I know you guys are going to America. Can you take care of Sophie? And I'm like, where the fuck are Sophie's parents? What is going on? But he's like, yeah, can you guys, I don't know, can you like get her a visa or some shit and like pack her in your suitcase and take her to like Philadelphia with you for however long the second season is? I have to go somewhere for some reason and do something. Don't worry about it. I think my house will totally be fine if you just lock it up and like leave the key under the mat, take her to America with you. Okay, bye. And then we find out that he has also left instructions for Max. There's like a drawer with all of his like vampire like knowledge written down in like, I guess there's like more handwritten knowledge, not just like the book that he had from earlier. It's like his own personal notes. And he's like, Max, keep on fighting the good fight, figure it out. Take Sophie to America with you. Her parents don't give a shit. They don't mind. I'm going to continue my adventures in the void outside of time and space. And the whole show ends there. And I was like, what? Fucking what? Like, first off, good job on the characteristic of he shows up in the finale. He might be alive. He might be dead. The whole show gets canceled forever. Like A+. But like, what was season 2 gonna be? Do you know what I mean? Like you're on an entirely different continent. Is there another fireplace in Philadelphia that leads you to the void outside time and space from whence all vampires come? Fucking what? Like this show is so terrible and wonderful and compelling and stupid and like I feel all the fucking feelings about it. What were your thoughts on the finale?
I mean, yeah.
Really? I know we've been going for 2 hours, but really?
No, I mean yes. I think the build up and then I just wish they hadn't put him in like, I clearly want to be a tennis pro. I just don't know what the choice, like leave him in the thing, but take his cloak off or something like take his cape off.
I will say that I don't understand vampire fashion because when they're pretending to be human, they're wearing like regular suits like any adult man. But the second they get home, they have to like for their comfort change into a full-on tuxedo with a cape.
Yeah, with the collar popped. I mean, that's the kid like it's fine. But like have him come out, like have him undo the cape and then be like, Dad? Like
yeah. That would
great. That would have worked really great instead of the like, where did he get those clothes? Were those clothes in the void? Did they have Sears in the void? Did they play tennis in the void? I don't understand.
It sort of feels like the cape and the tuxedo are like their second skin. Like they can pretend to put on a human adult man suit when they need to pretend to be a human adult man. But like the tuxedo is like physically part of them. And so when he's no longer a vampire, it's no longer physically a part of him. So maybe he wears the human clothes he wore when he died.
It transformed into a cardigan. I don't know.
Sure. It makes as much sense as anything else. The void outside time and space that makes your clothes stay minty fresh.
Yeah. I mean, I love this moment that they get this brief moment of like, oh my God, Dad, like I'm back. And he's like, oh my God, he's human. Like he's human. And then he immediately gets ripped away. And you kind of wish we could have lingered on that for a little bit longer and not done some of the stuff with the mom. Like there's a couple scenes in that, like the whole scene where Jordy goes to the house and he's going to kill the kids, which is quite graphic actually. I was
because he picks up Max by the throat.
I was like, wow. Cause we've been almost to like this playful relationship by the end where like they'll show up to kill him and he's like, sorry guys, like I already won today. And they're like, oh, catch you next time, Dracula.
Yeah, they defanged him throughout most of the series. And then we get to this in the finale. And I should have remarked on that because you're entirely right. Like this scene where he's fighting the kids in the house it feels
graphic.
very real.
It feels very violent.
He knocks Chris across the room. He picks up Max by the throat and like holds him in the air. Like, I'm going to snap your neck right fucking now. I don't remember what happens with Sophie, but she's like in the house being involved. It does feel like all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, this is Dracula. This is like the motherfucker. He does not play. He is done playing with you guys.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to play footsie bullshit poker anymore. He is going to kill you. Like he seems very scary in that moment.
Yeah.
And also like they do have him in like the full on eyebrowless vampire makeup. So he looks even less human than he normally does. It does feel like all of a sudden, it's like we talked about with this whole show, like it doesn't know the tone. It doesn't know how serious or how scary anything should be at any given moment. Like, is Dracula like a remorseless murder monster, or is he like your goofy neighbor? Like, he somehow is both throughout. Like, he'll change throughout the course of a single episode.
Yeah. Because even watching it, I was like, and then the only reason he gets saved is because Klaus goes into the void, or he like throws a stake into the void. Like he tries to stake the void, and then Dracula is like, oh, he wouldn't dare, and then he teleports back.
Yeah, somehow Dracula can feel when anything enters the void. So Ger throws a stake into the void where Dracula no longer is, but Dracula is in the house and he's like, did that motherfucker litter in my magic space void? And he's like, fuck that bitch. And he runs up the stairs and does this little twirl and then zooms back into the void somehow. Like it's very weird because it sort of feels like if they hadn't said all vampires are outside of time and space, then the void would have felt like a special Dracula only thing. But somehow the void is a special Dracula only thing. But also every vampire has a connection to it, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it doesn't, I feel like I don't understand the purpose of the void as a place other than a pocket that you could stick Ger and Dracula in and Gustav in at the end of the episode to like have them hang tight until the kids can come back to rescue them.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like what it actually is and does for Dracula, like I have no clue, because like you said, like when he wants to teleport, he does that, and if every vampire is outside of time and space, then
we don't get any last line from him at all, because he disappears into it, and then when he comes back, he like skateboards out and grabs Ger and pulls him back, and that's it. Like the only lines at the end there are Ger shouting for his dad, and Gustav shouting for Klaus, and that's it. That's all. We don't hear anything that Dracula doesn't say anything. It's just the end.
I thought he made one comment like, "I will not be defeated," like as he's dragging Klaus.
But it's not like a.
No, it's not like a. It doesn't resolve anything.
It's not like a conversation. Yeah, it's just like a.
Yeah, it's just him being like fuck you guys,
and then. Yeah, they jump in there, and then Gustav is like, well, here I go. And so he just like looks at the kids and leaves. And then the kids go back home and they're like, shit, we watched everybody die.
In front of you.
Yeah, we watched Gustav die. We learned that Klaus was Gustav's son. And this whole time, every time we were making fun of Klaus, and every time Klaus did shitty stuff, it was like Gustav was upset about it because it was his son. So they got that moment of revelation right when the son dies. And then Dracula, who they don't know, they weren't there when Dracula was like, yeah, this is my like private penthouse. Sometimes I go there and hang out. And then I come out and like, it's cool. It's like a thing I can do. So they don't know what it is. They just know that Dracula appeared out of it and then went back into it. And like Dracula at this point is almost in like their plucky best friend that they play weird games with, where they'll call the cops on him, but he actually owns the cops, so that never works. And or like they'll show up and they try to stop and he's like, oh kids, not today. And they're like, oh Dracula, dang it. And he's like, can I have my keys back? And they're like, fuck you, Dracula, and they just leave. and then yet in this moment, like he legitimately tried to kill them. Even in the clip episode directly before this, Dracula, the character in the dream, but he says like, I've actually started having a lot of fun with you guys. Like this this repartee thing that we're doing is actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
And Gustav goes, yeah, you know what? I find myself enjoying it too. So it's this like, we've almost become friends. And then, yeah, as soon as the cross of the Magyars is gone, he's like, it's on, bitch. And he just shows up and he's like, well, now I get to kill all three of you because nobody's here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we got more and more comfortable with the Dracula character. Even in the I Love Lucard, like the episode where he kills his ex-girlfriend, the interactions he has with Max are like, oh, Max, you plucky kid, like, not today. And the kid's like, oh, okay, I'm going to ride off on my bicycle. And I think it's the second time Dracula's like, drive safely. It's like, he's like, goofy neighbor, goofy neighbor, goofy neighbor. And then we get to the finale and he's like, oh, P.S., did you guys forget that I'm actually a terrifying murder monster? And this whole series starts with me murdering the shit out of a cop in the middle of the street because I can and I want to, because no one can stop me, because I am an unstoppable fucking hungry, devouring force of nature. Like, oh, did you forget that? I'm actually terrifying. And Jordy Johnson goes full out. Like, to his credit, it is legitimately, we are adults watching this. And I personally found it like very like upsetting to watch it. Like, he is very scary. He is legitimately so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't imagine like an actual little kid watching this episode, because he goes like full out. Like, I know he's not actually hurting this 10-year-old kid, but like they decided that this was the episode that they were going to like make it look real. And when he picks the kid up by his neck, it looks like he's actually picking the kid up by his neck and like going to crush the life out of him. Like, it is very violent. And it's like, oh yeah, no, this guy is not actually like goofy, silly teddy bear. Like, he is actually like a grizzly bear. Like, he will actually hurt you.
Yeah.
So, okay. So did I miss any? I feel like there's not that many characteristics. There's Tell Me I'm Pretty. There's Touch a Lady on her body.
Yep.
There's there's like knowing wink at the camera because I'm having a real good time. I feel like he does that like he's Shakespeare. Yeah,
the in joke he does a couple of times.
Yeah. The I'm gonna be in the finale and I'm gonna it's not meant to be the series finale, but I'm gonna show up and it turns out that now it is the series finale.
Surprise!
And maybe I'm dead, maybe I'm not dead, like, which is a fun characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that he never kisses anybody, which is a bummer.
Yeah. On screen anyway.
No, I'm sure the cast of Dracula the series was having like wild sex orgies backstage.
Jordy and Ger were on. I mean, if they weren't, it was a missed opportunity. That's all I could say.
I mean, we did point out last week that there is a slight homoerotic tension between those two characters when they're really going at it. Like they're like going so hardcore to like Shakespeare off each other that it feels like it could maybe lead to something else.
Yeah.
I'm going to have weird dreams tonight. Thank you. But yeah, I feel like there's not, I feel like those are like those are the only characteristics. Like there's not, there's no kissing. I don't know. What are the other characteristics? I feel like we've like hit all of like.
Yeah, no, I mean he does a good highlight. Like he does a good smattering. The ones that he doesn't do are like, yeah. He's not, and he packs a lot into the few episodes that he is in. Like he packs a lot of his characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not in that many episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the other characteristic.
Yeah.
I showed up on a goofy I showed up at a goofy show. Everyone else is giving this like a 5. I want to give it a 15. I'm going to blow your brains away. Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a drama. You guys are in a comedy.
4 raised eyebrows out of 5.
Yeah.
I really think that the characteristics we included.
So if you were I'm gonna make you do your rating first. How would you rate this entire?
And I think that he went harder than he needed to, and I appreciate that. And I think Jordy did too, and so a couple of the eyebrows might be Jordy's. I don't know. And the only docked eyebrow really is just that the inconsistent tone of his character, which is not really his fault. But like, is he a crazed psychopath? Is he a like hurting son who's lost his father and can't get him back and just wants his father to be gone so he's not reminded of it anymore? Like, you don't know who he is. And I feel like they were going to do a lot more with the character. But instead they brought him, he brought the, like, he crushed it. And then they abandoned his character for like 7 episodes. And yeah, until the plucky kid accidentally brings him back, and then almost immediately the show ends.
So they could focus on the amnesiac.
So it loses an eyebrow for that.
In the attic of a bookstore.
I mean, we talked about it. We got so many characteristics, and they were good ones. So 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We do get a bunch of characteristics. We do get him acting everyone else out of the water, and doing like Shakespeare offs with Geordie, which I really enjoyed. I feel like I really like the Ger episodes. I like the Dracula, or the vampire actor, the vampire silent movie actor episode. I like the Dracula is hung up on his ex-girlfriend episode, obviously. But then I feel like all the rest of the episodes, there's like so much filler and so many missed opportunities. Like they keep like throwing up like really interesting ideas, like the is Sophie still tied to being a vampire? Let's explore the inner life of Dracula. Let's explore the inner life of Klaus. Like let's like look at the traumatic effect this has all had on Gustav. Like they bring up so many interesting ideas, but they like throw it at you and then they're like, just kidding. We're never going to deal with this again. And then there's so many episodes where it's just like goofy, plucky kid stuff or uncomfortable teenage children kissing each other, which again, I don't need to see that on television. It's cool if I never ever see that again. So, but then like the Ger episodes are so good. Like the good stuff is so good and the bad stuff is so fucking dumb. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
I feel like the good stuff is just so good though. I want, I'm going to give it 8 sloppy, wet, moist kisses and a solid 8 out of 10 because the Ger stuff is so good and so compelling that it makes it so that I can like skip over. Cause like I don't ever have to watch the non-Ger episodes like ever again. I could just watch the Klaus arc, which is like 5 episodes total and still get like all the stuff that I want to get out of watching Dracula the series.
Yeah, it's either like what the fuck, or it's my god,
where the highs are so high and the lows are so low, and the goofiness factor is somehow like ramped up to like 12, and you're like, ugh, why? Yes, yeah. Where it's so inconsistent. And it's not even just like meh or great. It's like great or horse shit. And I'm like, how did you
get these kids out of here?
Points.
Bring back the.
So yeah, like, ugh. Like I know it's a show meant for children, and I'm like looking at it through an adult's eyes. And like I remember as a kid, I only remember the kid characters. I was watching it like when we first started watching this again. I was like, I remember Dracula being like a businessman. I didn't remember that Klaus existed. I didn't remember very much about the uncle. Like I didn't remember anything about the adult characters, but I remember like being a plucky kid and watching Plucky Kids and being like, oh yeah, oh great, this is so much fun. But like now as an adult, I'm just like fucking drown them in a river and like be done with them. No more of them. Like give me more of the adult stuff. Yeah, no, the magic totally poisoned by Dracula's polluting company's river. So like,
no.
Yeah, an 8 because the good stuff is so good. There's a lot of characteristics. I will say I am sad that the only characteristic that I really care about they did not have because there was no kissing happening, which fine. And the one kiss we got was so weird. Geordie Johnson, what was that, man? I
wonder if there were restrictions because it was classified as a children's show.
I'm sure, but like then you could have given her like a little peck on the cheek, and that would have been fine.
Well, that could have not been allowed. It could have been like you can do a certain amount of like lead up, but we can't do any more than like a on off again.
But this kiss lasted too long. That's my point. It was like
Yeah, but the actual like lip content is like lip contact is pretty low. There's just like a lot of like I'm going in.
The going in was real upsetting because it took too long. But then when they actually kiss, when their lips actually touch, it's like they're doing like lip ballet. I don't know what it is. It's so weird. It was so like, you know, when you're just watching, like I feel like you don't think of the mechanics of a kiss. Generally, you're like, okay, here are two characters, they're gonna kiss. And that's as much as you think about it. But like, if you like, I need someone else to watch this kiss in I Love Lucard. I think it's sort of in the middle. Like, just like fast forward, you'll see them. They're like in front of a fireplace. They're bending over to each other. They're gonna kiss. When they kiss, it is so upsetting and slow. And like I say, like he's puffing his cheeks. I think he's blowing air into her mouth. Like, sir, why are you doing that? Why?
It's like in a romance novel when they describe it as their teeth hitting, like they're like kissing so passionately, their teeth click together. And you're like, I can literally think of nothing more nauseating than if I was kissing somebody and my teeth.
I'm sorry, Kelly. That's awful. It just seemed like the mechanics of it were like so distracting and upsetting. The one time I get what's supposed to be like a hot kiss, you could have given me, like I said, a cheek kiss. You could have given me a little forehead kiss. That would have been like sufficient for the show.
Ooh, forehead kiss would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been fine.
Just a little
You belong to me now.
Yeah.
Forehead kiss. Fine. Totally fine.
Yeah, just like a little, I think of that as like a cherish kiss.
It would have served the story just as well. It wouldn't have made my stomach turn, and it wouldn't have made me concerned that Geordie Johnson has never kissed a human woman before, because
No, it's fine. No. Ger was on set and he had performance anxiety.
I mean, how are you going to kiss in front of the Toronto Tongue Tornado? I mean, that's pressure.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how you manage. That's, you know what? That's my new explanation. I'm going to go with that. Yeah. Geordie was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like trying to paint a picture in front of Picasso or something.
Oh my God.
You just can't do it. It could be like, oh, it's never going to be as good.
What do they call that in baseball? The yips? I think Geordie had the yips. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
You either try and fail or you don't try. And then when you do fuck it up, at least you're like, well, if I had tried, I would have been good.
Yeah, I like that explanation. I'm going to go with that, because otherwise, I like Geordie Johnson. I mean, like, it kind of goes with the fact that he has like his normal speaking voice is sort of a weird Transylvanian accent, even when he's not being Dracula. And he's from, didn't we say he's from Alberta? I feel like we said he's from Alberta, but like,
yeah,
I'm like putting those things together, and now I'm like, is he actually like an alien? Like, because like he kisses like he's from space. He has an accent that no human man has ever had. Geordie Johnson, where are you actually from? Because like, I want to claim you as my countryman, as my kin, but like, I'm not entirely certain that you didn't just fall off an asteroid and go, I will become a human actor. Like, it's just so weird. Anyways, I enjoyed the show.
I'm a regular
it's on
human
YouTube.
actor.
I like the show. It's on YouTube. There's at least 2 separate accounts that have uploaded every single episode. They're like 20 minutes each. They're really cute. They're cute and short. The adult episodes are really good if you're an adult. The kid episodes are cute if you have a kid and you want to put something on and just like let them zone out to TV.
Just skip the one where the 9-year-old goes on a date and smokes a cigarette.
Yeah, I mean, pick and choose, because there are several episodes where several children date several adults. So, maybe fast forward through those. But otherwise, yeah, it's a show that like I loved as a kid. I like it as an adult. I'm bummed that there's not a second season. And like we said last week, there is a fan campaign that appears to be, semi-current, where they're trying to get the show brought back in some form or another. So I think we should all go and sign that campaign, and maybe we'll get lucky and some version of the show will be given to us. Like, even if it were like a book or something that just gives us like, here's season 2, but like as a Kickstarter book, like I would buy that. I would read that. Like, just to know, like, you don't set up something so weird that there's a hole in the fireplace outside of time and space and we all get sucked into it if you don't have some crazy, weird, amazing plan for season 2. Like, there's got to be, you didn't just pull that out of your butt and go, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Like, you had something in motion. Like, I want to know what that is. Like, it's weird and compelling, and the show is so uneven that it makes me like it even more. Like, I want to know what was in your weird drug-addled brains, because it's a good it's not a good show. It's a weird fucking show with amazing moments and dumb moments, but the amazing moments are so amazing that it like makes it worth it. So
yeah,
I would recommend it. I think we should all sign the petition. I think we should all watch it on YouTube. I never want to hear Ger make that weird laugh again. And I don't think I ever want to see Jordy Johnson kiss a human female woman ever again, because it made me feel uncomfortable deeply. But I still think it's a good show. I still liked it. And I think this will be, unless I can convince you to at some point do a Forever Night recap episode, which, I mean, you know, for completeness, we probably should. I'm just saying.
I mean, I can, and then we can just direct people
for
to
more, for more in-depth appreciation of the show. But like, other than Forever Night, I think this will be his last vampire role. So we probably won't talk about vampires in this podcast. I mean, we will talk about vampires in this podcast, but we probably won't have a vampire property to talk about on this podcast.
We'll just bring them up in conversation.
Yeah, no, that'll be a stretch. That'll be an awful stretch. But so anyways, I hope everyone watches the show. I hope everyone enjoys it. On that note, friends.
Yeah. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.